Let's call the Tuesday, November 5th, 2019 meeting of the City of Oldsmar Council to order. First item on the agenda is the invocation, which will be led by our City Attorney, Mr. Tom Trask. Please rise.
Our Father in heaven, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is in the best interest of the City of Oldsmar. This we pray.
Amen.
Amen. And we have special guests in the house tonight, which is, I'm pretty sure, why everyone's here.
Of course.
And that is that our Pledge of Allegiance is going to be led by Webelow Pack number 38. Come on up, gentlemen. Remember what we rehearsed. Introduce yourselves in the microphone real quick.
Your name real quick.
Come on, you're on TV.
Hi, I'm Zach.
I'm Austin. I'm Carter.
I'm Devin.
I'm Adam. I'm Ethan. I'm Matthias. I'm Gannett.
All right, move up. All right, gentlemen, you know what to do.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, for liberty stands for all.
All right, good job, guys. All right, you may be seated.
Thank you.
They earned their badge tonight. So they were here early, and they were grilling the mayor.
They were.
I thought they were already registered voters.
Loaded questions.
Awesome. All right, the next thing on our agenda is something special moment, and that is the swearing in of the appointment for Council Seat 3, and I will call on our city clerk and our appointee, Sandy Grimes. And family.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, Sandy Grimes,
I, Sandy Grimes,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution
and government
of the United States
of the United States
and the state of Florida
and the state of Florida
and the city charter
of the city of Oldsmar, Florida,
of the city of Oldsmar, Florida,
and that I am duly qualified
to
to hold office
under the Constitution
of the state
and faithfully perform
the duties of council member
of the city of Oldsmar, Florida,
in accordance with the city charter.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
He's got away, Dan. Thanks.
Have a seat, boss.
Please take your seat. All right, that's exciting stuff. And thank you for stepping up
Thank you.
for your community.
Thank you.
We arranged a special meeting for you tonight. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Citizens Open Forum. The rules are you have 5 minutes. We ask that you state your name and your address of where you live, including your city. We don't assume you live in the city of Oldsmar. We have no public hearings tonight. You could speak on anything to the, we have ordinance.
We have one.
Great. I stand corrected. You could speak on anything other than item number 8. You can hold your comments to that if you wish to speak to it till we get to it. All right. With that, I'm going to start on this side of the room. Is there anybody who has any public comments? This is such an amazing crowd. Is there anyone on this side? Let me start up here. Just work my way back.
Good evening, Council. I would like to introduce myself. I am Kelly O'Brien. I live at 343 Tavernier Drive, Oldsmar, Florida. And I would like to announce tonight that I have signed up to enter the race for seat 3. I'm really excited. This is something that I've thought about and wanted to do for a long time, and I just have felt recently that the time is now. Why not now? So I'm very excited. The reason why I'm choosing to do this at all is sitting over there. Her name is Fallon, and Oldsmar is such a beautiful place to live, and I want to contribute to that for the children of the city. So I'm interested in doing what I can to grow some young leaders and just see what I can contribute in that way with the kids. So thank you in advance, and that's all.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job. You know, I love our city because we have now 2 announced candidates, and they're sitting next to each other
Right
pretty
next
much.
to each
So that's the way we roll here. Do I have anybody else on this side of the room who'd like to? Oh, our poet laureate, and I don't have my.
Don't feel bad.
Shame on you.
Hello, my name is Amanda, 135 East Lake Club Drive, and I'm the Poet Laureate of Oldsmar, and it's my role within this community to spread awareness and love of poetry within the city. I also provide prompts for our council members to get them to write poetry if they so wish. The last prompt I gave was to celebrate Oldsmar, in which the council members were prompted to write a poem that celebrated the city. I have some poems here. Does anyone else have poems that I have not received yet? Okay, and did you want to read your poem?
Sure.
Why don't you lead us off tonight?
Thank you, Amanda. So the prompt Celebrate Oldsmar reminded me of community, and boy did I need my community this week. I called it Woman's Club. In a little white house on Exeter Street, Oldsmar's sisters, Charity and Love, come meet. We give and we need, we gather as one, building each other to withstand and overcome. No longer lost, no longer alone, hope and courage are seeds she's sown. She lifts me up from the depths below, upon my hearth her calm bestowed. I take shelter and find security, a surge of relief sparked by unity. Her sympathetic ear, the way to a laugh. She skillfully cuts my anxiety in half. Honest intention in each interaction, causing a wave of endless compassion. You'll help me up, and I'll help you see how incredible my community can truly be. President Mary Ann Cruz is sitting right back there.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I also have some poems here, also Celebrate Oldsmar. The first by Dan Saraki. Celebrate Oldsmar. Walking and bike trails galore, sparkling waterways, long pier with fabulous sunsets, miles of parks with an abundance of wildlife, restaurants that make your taste buds feel like a butterfly, annual fireworks that the children desire, fire department and sheriff's department second to none, neighborhoods full of friendly faces, people that come together to help one another, lifelong friendships that are priceless. Oldsmar is my home, and I celebrate every day. Thank you. Very nice.
Very good. It wasn't Paula, but now, wasn't Paula?
No, that was me.
Paula wrote
You like the butterfly part.
it. No.
Loved the butterfly part. And Thank you, new council member Sandy Grimes, for sharing your poem with us as well.
Right off the bat.
Eric, Mayor, we're getting shown up here.
I'm about to make one.
I know, I'm gonna make one up.
She's been sworn in for about 10 minutes.
And she's already writing a poem.
There you go.
Celebrate Oldsmar. We go to work every day to push along our merry way, doing our jobs for which we get paid, sometimes tired our heads to lay. Wonderful to live in Oldsmar, where we can live, work, and play. Poetry snaps all around. And now for November's theme.
Okay.
Ready.
November is a month of family, food, traditions, and stories. So I wrote this poem with these themes in mind. It's called Start of a Story. From where does a story start? Does it begin with a plate, with tradition? In addition, does it continue in the spirit of art? Is the story mixed inside the tub of spaghetti and meatballs passed around the autumn table before placemats are packed away? Does the story float alongside the balloons on TV? Does the story start with someone else or with me? Maybe it is found in a Christmas ornament barrel, or a still dripping candle, or maybe the echoes of memory. Thank you.
Nice.
And the prompt I have to present to you today is write a poem about a favorite family tradition.
Got it.
And one last thing that I would just like to say in front of everyone is that on the first and third Saturdays of every month, I host Project Poetry, which is an open meeting. Anyone can join, and it's just a great time at the Oldsmar Public Library where we just discuss poetry, we write poems, and it's just a fun time. So I invite anyone to come join us for that. And thank you. That's all I have.
Very good.
Thank you, Amanda.
Who else do we have? Right ahead. Nope.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. It really is an honor. And thank you to Cindy Kakalo for inviting me. My name is Liz Jack. I'm an assistant state attorney, and I'm running for circuit judge in the seat that's currently held by Judge Covert, also a former assistant state attorney, and he is retiring, so it will be an open seat. I'm running because I believe that we need good judges, and I believe that I will make a good judge. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been prosecuting 11 years total. I took a little break when my kids were young, and I studied and worked in psychology at USF St. Petersburg. And my main goal was to bring interventions for families with very young children in the child welfare system, in the court system, because early brain development is the key to our future, a healthy early brain development. I'm from the Boston area, and I went to Boston College undergrad. And after working in publishing and as a paralegal, I went back to school for my law degree at the University of Chicago. So you might hear a little mix of both accents. I haven't figured that out. I've lived in Florida since 1998, 21 years, when I moved here after law school to work as a federal law clerk in Tampa. Miss Gannon can relate. And I've always been driven by a need to serve a higher purpose, and I feel very fortunate that my career has allowed me to do that. I'll tell you a little secret. I turned 50 this year, and after working very hard, I looked behind me and I realized I have some experience now. And I feel the way I could best serve the community is working as a judge in a greater way than I've been doing, having more of an impact. I currently practice in front of about 20 different judges. I'm in all of the criminal courtrooms, and I know firsthand what makes a good judge. A good judge works hard, listens, and follows the law, and removes their personal biases from their decisions. A judge's bias can totally change the outcome of a case, and it damages the integrity of the court system for all of us. So how do you, as voters, decide what makes a good judge? You can't ask me questions about how I'd rule on an issue. I'm not allowed to talk about it, and I don't really know. A good judge wouldn't know because they're going to base their decisions on the facts of the particular case and the laws that apply. So you have to look at a candidate's proven track record of listening, working hard, following the law. And as a prosecutor, I look to the law every single day to make decisions about what charges I can prove beyond a reasonable doubt, regardless of my personal desire for the outcome. I love fighting for justice, but above that, a higher ideal for me is the system. And in America, we truly have the best legal system in the world. And it requires judges to remove themselves. The integrity of the system requires following the law. To tell you a little bit about what kind of judge I'd be, I'll tell you about a case I handled recently. It went to trial in January of 2017, and I worked very hard. It was a domestic violence murder, and I had worked on it for over a year, but in January alone, in a 4-week period, I worked 380 hours, and we do not get paid overtime. It was a high-profile case with a high-powered defense team and a beloved victim who had worked in law enforcement. I poured my heart and soul into that case. I truly believe the defendant was guilty, and she claimed self-defense. After a trial that was pre-trial motions, a knockdown, drag-out trial, the jury went out, and they came back with their verdict, and it was not guilty. It was a very hard blow. But despite that loss, I know I gave the victim and his memory the respect he deserved, and I fought hard for him. And I did everything I could to prove the case and prove the facts as I believe they truly occurred. And separate from the outcome of that case or any case, that matters. The system and the integrity of the system matters. The victim's family has become like family to me. I went to the victim's daughter's wedding, and they are working on my campaign because they believe I will make a good judge. They still believe in the system, even though they didn't like that outcome. With a good judge, you will not always get the result that you want, but you will be treated fairly. You will feel like you were heard because you were heard. And that is what we all deserve from our legal system. And that's the kind of judge I'll be for our citizens. One more thing, just a quick aside. I've worked closely with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, getting their unlicensed contracting unit off the ground. I have a lot of knowledge in that area. And if anyone is interested in hosting a community event, neighborhood group, I'd be happy to share that knowledge to help you avoid being defrauded. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming here and introducing yourself. Do we have anybody else on this side of the room? All right, before I close the Citizens Open Forum, I just want to make a comment, and that is that when we get to item 8, which is our, excuse me, not item 8, item 3, consider economic development proposals for city-owned properties in the downtown area. The only audience speakers there'll be are those who are presenting. And so if you came here tonight to make public comment and you are not one of those speakers, I would give you the opportunity to do that at this time. Still a really good crowd. Okay. At this time, we will close the Citizens Open Forum. The next item on the agenda is the Community Minute, which will be presented by our City Clerk, Ann Nixon.
The annual talent show is Friday from 7 to 9 at Cypress Forest Rec Center. It's a free event and a lot of fun. They work so hard. So go if you get a chance, go by and see it. Veterans Day celebration Monday, November 11 at 11 o'clock at Veterans Memorial Park. And this year, the keynote speaker is retired U.S. Army Colonel Mike McAllister. And Sunset Sounds music series is Friday, November 15th, 6:30 to 9 o'clock at Ari Olds Park, the Trop Rock Junkies. So take a blanket, come on out and have some fun.
Well, very good.
Thank you, Ann.
Sunset Sounds this past weekend was terrific. A lot of fun. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of additional new agenda items. The chair will entertain a motion to accept, approve item number 2, item number 6. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, awards and recognitions. Presentation of certificate of completion for council member Katie Gannon. And the mayor's doing that. Come on up here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So many of you may not know this, but most of our council members, in addition to going through training with being a new city council member, here with the staff, and a lot of self-education that you kind of go through in the process, right?
Very true.
Okay. We actually, a lot of us attend the Institute for Elected Municipal Officers, officials, I should say. And so it's put on by the Florida League of Cities. And so it's a big deal when one of our council members takes it upon themselves. It's a weekend-long program. It's 18 hours of training. It's very intense. It deals with everything from your legal responsibilities, which as a lawyer, I'm sure that was some new stuff for you, right?
I didn't know the budgeting thing. There's a lot to learn.
That's right.
There's a lot to learn.
Never fails. Everyone comes back and they immediately call you out when you do something you shouldn't. But in any event, on behalf of the City Council and the Florida League of Cities, I want to present you with your certificate of completion and say congratulations and thank you for putting in the extra effort.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the recognition, and I appreciate Council Members Dan Shiraki encouraging me to attend, and also our City Attorney Tom Trask encouraged me to attend. It was fantastic. It's like boot camp, learning how to be on council. I really think that everybody should be required to attend, and I honestly look forward to going to level 2, April. I'm excited. Thank you to our citizens.
You're already enrolled, huh?
It's coming.
All right. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to suspend the rules of the day for the purpose of moving up item number 7. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
At this time, we'll move to item 7, which is City of Oldsmar, presentation of 100-year proclamation for the Community United Methodist Church of Oldsmar. Our presenter will be Councilmember Siraki.
Thank you very much, Mayor. This is from the Office of the Mayor of Oldsmar, Florida. Proclamation, Community United Methodist Church of Oldsmar. Whereas, in 1918, the city of Oldsmar, a new town situated on the arm of Tampa Bay, was founded by Ransom Eli Olds of the R.E. Olds Corporation of Lansing, Michigan. And whereas Mr. Olds believed it was essential to include a church as part of his new town and asked Fred Cook, a prominent Methodist layman of Detroit, and Reverend G.E. Bennett of Tarpon Springs to organize the mission, church, and whereas services were first held in an unfurnished bungalow now known as 313 Jefferson Avenue, as well as the Assembly Hall on the second floor of the 1919 Oldsmar State Bank Building, where we are sitting right now. Currently, services are located at 207 Buckingham Avenue East, and whereas through its various outreach ministries, not only does the church reach out to those in need in Haiti and the Florida United Methodist Church Children's Home, it also reaches out to those in need in our own community through its Back to School Bash volunteering at Oldsmar Elementary School, Oldsmar Cares, First Responders, First Appreciation Day of Prayer, Dinner and Devotion Wednesdays, Community Kids Children's Ministry, Fish Youth Ministry, the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life, Oldsmar Days Weekend, Vacation Bible School, Oldsmar Elementary Trunk or Treat, and others too numerous to mention. And whereas on Sunday, November 17th, 2019, Community United Methodist Church of Oldsmar and its congregation will celebrate 100 years of this Heritage Sunday and share the great history of this community church. And whereas Community United Methodist Church of Oldsmar's vision is to know Christ and to make him known. Now, therefore, I, Councilmember Dan Saraki, for Eric Seidel, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, do by here wish the Community United Methodist Church of Oldsmar a wonderful birthday celebration and thank them for their 100 years of outreach to the community and for being an important part of this great city, dated the 5th day of November, 2019. Peter, come on up. Pastor Peter, thank you. Father, thank you for all you do for our city. Thank you so much. Oh, hold on. Here, you take this.
There we go. Other way, flip it, there you go. A little lower.
Lower.
They're closer to you.
Oh, God.
She says, oh, God, no.
What? Yes. We would like to make an open invitation to anyone who wants to come and celebrate with us. Starts at 10 o'clock, November the 17th. We just really enjoy having you. We also want to say thank you to Oldsmar. It is a wonderful place. I actually live here. I know a lot of people here, and it is just really a fantastic city, and we appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
All right, this time the chair will entertain a motion to return to the rules of the day. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the Community Redevelopment Agency, item number 3. Consider economic development proposals for city-owned properties in the downtown area. And so we are here finally at last. Okay. I anticipate that this is probably going to take a couple hours at least, at the very least, would be my guess. We're going to take our time going through it. I want to remind everyone first what we're not doing tonight, okay? What we're not doing tonight is actually awarding a development agreement. We're not awarding a purchase agreement for land. What we're doing is the council is going through their process, and we are ranking who we would like to see our city manager and assistant city manager go and work on negotiating an agreement that they feel is acceptable, that they can bring it back to this council. So what does it mean for the presenters? Unless you're eliminated, because I am going to ask if anyone feels that we should eliminate a proposal. It is your option if you're not ranked number 1. If you don't want to continue to pursue it, that is respected. We appreciate you wanting to be here this evening. Certainly we understand that. We'd be disappointed. But the way that we anticipate this kind of working is that the city manager will go take our number 1 ranking for both properties that we're going to discuss tonight, and go and work in good faith to try to negotiate to make that deal happen. After discussion with the city manager, and he felt that this was reasonable, our anticipation is that that agreement would be reached within 90 days so that it could be brought back to us. However, we are going to ask him to come back 30 days to give us an update. If he comes back and he says to us, he doesn't believe that he could get to an agreement, then this council might make the decision to move on to the next one that was ranked at that time, okay? So the goal is to keep it moving. All right. I got so many notes up here. So I'm going to talk about the ranking process, and this is after some discussion here with the city staff and some discussion with our legal counsel. So the ranking process is going to work like this. Number one, the council will hear from each presenter, starting with the hotel groups first. Two, council will, and then at that time, be able to ask any remaining questions they may have of the presenters. Three, the mayor will then close the presenters' comments, and then the discussion will be just amongst the council members. So we'll have the opportunity to have quite some discussion. The two property locations, City Hall and the library, they'll be separated for rankings. The council will start first with the library property. The council member, once we get into the discussion, will discuss each proposal. The mayor suggested that council members share their pros and cons and try to keep it simple. 6, the council will then come back and verbally rank them, at which time if a council member feels a proposal is not what they want in that property, they can say that they believe the proposal should be dropped from consideration. And of course, I would suggest they state why. If 3 council members wish to have something dropped from consideration, it would then be considered a majority, and it would no longer be considered and dropped. The most favored would be ranked with the highest score, and this will allow for weighted voting in case that there is no clear first place winner. For example, the library property, there's currently 3 proposals, the Con Group, DFMAR, and Prime. If a council member's favorite is DFMAR, then they would receive a 3, their next favorite a 2, and the least favorite a 1. If that turns out the score is a tie amongst the council members, if there's a tie, we would ask the city manager to go and work on both proposals that have a tie score at the same time. The same process will then be conducted for the City Hall property. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve that process as presented. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion on it? Sensing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right. So we're first going to, as I said earlier, we're going to hear from each of the presenters. So we each have 5 minutes. The hotels each have 5 minutes. The Prime Group actually has 20 minutes because they've not had the opportunity to make a presentation yet. And then DFMAR, since they are involved in 2 separate properties, we're going to allow them 5 minutes each. And then we're going to have them present in that order. So the first up to present is from Commonwealth. Felicia, are you introducing them or are you bringing them up? Well, I saw you standing back there, so I thought we'll put you to work.
I'd like to introduce Paul Stanton from Commonwealth.
That's such a good job.
Thank you, Felicia.
Couldn't have done it better myself. So I'm with Commonwealth Hotels. We're out of Covington, Kentucky. We manage hotels all across the country, a lot of them hotels down here in Florida, and looking to do more. Particularly after hearing the poetry, it's like we really want to be here and think we can bring a lot to the table. I mean, we've looked at and we've re-looked at our proposals that we've put in front of you, and we think we've got a great proposal for you. We think it's a right fit, and as we get into more feasibility studies and analysis with the city manager's office, then we'll see if we can improve on that and add more to it. But we think we've got a good shot at getting this where it's economically feasible and viable, but also it's a nice addition to the community with a nice upscale hotel and restaurant. So
that's it. That's all you got?
Pretty simple.
Straight to it. I like it. All right. So we're going to go ahead and open for questions. I'm going to start with Councilmember Gannon.
My questions of this particular applicant were answered during the exchange process we had earlier in August and during our work session. I have no additional questions at this time.
Excellent. Councilmember Grimes. That's the first time I've got to say that.
Yes, it is. The questions have been answered so far that I had as well.
Wow. That's a shocker there. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no questions. I am all set on this particular item.
Very good.
Good.
All right, Councilmember Norris?
I have one question, and it's going to be to pretty much all of the hoteliers. Is that the right way to say that?
It was.
Okay, thanks. And it is the feasibility of having two hotels, one on the library. I know that isn't, did you take into consideration, I guess I need to ask you the question, did you take into consideration the feasibility of the economic feasibility of if you are chosen to do a hotel on the downtown property, another hotel on the library property with our vacancy rates and everything? I think I was told that our vacancy rates run about 85%. Occupancy rates run 85%. So that's my only question, and I'm going to have it of all three.
Okay, it's a good question. When we looked at it, we always anticipate there'll be more supply coming into an area. That's unfortunately, that's the nature of it. We're probably our own worst enemies when it comes to that. The occupancy in the city right now is very strong. I would anticipate that the hotel on the library site would probably be a select service, similar to what you already have there. The hotel here is going to be more upscale-ish and more boutique-ish, with the rooftop and another restaurant and with all the amenities around it. So I would envision that they would not be directly competitive to each other. And I think there's probably enough upscale demand here that would certainly suffice to fill up the hotel here to those levels. And there's enough corporate demand and other travel demand around that would fill up the other hotel to a profitable level.
Okay.
So we don't see that as being an issue.
Thank you.
Very good. I have a question for you. And I'm not trying to negotiate on the spot kind of thing, but I am curious. You're the only one who didn't make any changes to your proposal. So either you're very confident with what you've submitted, or you will be difficult to negotiate with for our city manager.
Neither would you
And so I asked that, I asked that because all the proposals are public information, and your proposal, the contribution to the parking garage is about 35% less than your competitors. And so I'm surprised that there wasn't any kind of effort to improve your position. It's material.
We were not going to start to negotiate on that until we got further down the road. And we see that as, it's an important part of it, but it's not the key driver here. As we get into the negotiations on that, then that obviously will be certainly something we take into consideration, and we would be competitive on that. But we did not see that as something key to go back in and start to negotiate at this point until you really get a handle on what you're doing with the garage and everything. And we didn't feel we had enough information on the overall structure of how that's coming together and how it's going to be financed and everything it just didn't make sense for us to muddy the waters.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That was the only question.
But we're
I had.
easy to negotiate with.
Okay, you're easy to negotiate with.
Mayor, I actually do have one more question, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
Okay, so I see that you're going to partner with the Finfrock is going to build the hotel. And they are also very experienced in building garages. Would they be, I don't know if I would ask, would I ask Mr. Stanton this, or?
What's the question?
Yeah.
Would they be interested in also building the garage?
Yes. They want to build the garage. They're very good at it, and they do a lot of them. And they would like to build the hotel.
Okay.
They would do one or the other, or they would do both. You're not obligated. If we don't do the hotel, they would still like to do the garage.
Okay.
And if they don't do the garage, they would still like to do the hotel.
Okay.
So don't feel pressured, don't feel any obligation either way.
And then if we already asked a question in the work session, I don't need to ask it again, right?
If it hasn't been asked, I'm going to allow, but go right ahead.
It has been asked. I've already asked
Oh, in the
it.
work session?
Yes.
So do you already have an answer? Okay. I would say probably not. I mean, we'll
You
go
probably
through
can
it.
guess what it is.
Go right ahead. I'm just curious.
The 1% through the art fund, just wishing that you would consider placing 1% into an art fund. We do that with our city.
We could certainly get behind that. We have an art hotel out in Denver where we have a
Yeah.
really nice art collection there, and we very much believe in giving back to the community and getting involved, so I don't see any problem with that.
You knew I had to ask.
Right, that's
Mayor.
okay. Hey, listen up here. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add?
We would even put poetry in the hotel too, so.
There you
not to
go.
worry.
About that.
Vote out there. All right, thank you, sir. Thank you. And so, listen, it's my intent to allow as many questions as everybody would like.
Okay.
There's no rush. This is a big deal for us. We're going to get it right, and everyone's going to feel good about it. All right? All right. Simone Group, come on down. We lost our announcer, so. Phil, please introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Eric Paul Simone.
Hi, I'm Paul Simone with Simone Development.
And I'm a firm believer of nothing beats a true hard copy. So
Is it the same?
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't get one, I got one.
So those two pages go
You
together.
missed the ankle one, I think.
Yeah, that's the supplement.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Oh, this is new stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's right. You do what you got to do. Thank you.
Eric, is this a hard copy of what you emailed?
No, it's a hard, no, there's some new
There's new in here.
supplements.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's new in here.
Yeah, this is new stuff.
Thank you for inviting us back. I'm real excited to be here. Been waiting all day for this. Just one quick thing before we get started. I just want to congratulate Councilmember Sandy Grimes.
Thank you.
And just a quick brief background of us. I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I'm happy to talk to you about us and what we've done for the city of Oldsmar. 5 of the hotels here have been built by my family, 3 by my father, and 2 by my uncle. And they're solid structures, all concrete block. We take pride in our quality work. So, in my eyes, I see we do have what I see a Godfather offer to the city. We'd like to lend an arm to you guys that we firmly believe will help the city kickstart this development off. In regards to the parking garage, I know there's a lot of toss-up in either way. We can be flexible with it, but we are also willing to build and pay for the parking garage and lease spaces back to the city of Oldsmar. In further extension of that, we're also willing to do a lease option to buy at any point. So whether it be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, just once until we have CO for the garage. Also, at any point in time, we're willing to sell the garage back to the city of Oldsmar at 10% over cost. And also for the lease option to buy, it would be 10% over cost. And we're happy to show you all the numbers. We're known for our building, we're quality of work, and whatever it costs us, just a 10% over cost, we're willing to sell it back to you guys in any shape or form. We're a legacy project here. I mean, we're a legacy family here. We've done a lot of work here, and our quality of work speaks for itself. If it didn't, a lot of institutional groups wouldn't contact us, begging us to build hotels for them daily. Majority of the time I talk to my dad on the phone, he always says he has to go because a new number's calling him. And just to remind you guys, my dad and I are right now building a new hotel across the street from the new theme park being built at Universal Studios. Our quality work speaks for itself. We really want to be here. We want to help you guys out. We love the city. And we want to come home. In any way, shape, or form we can help you with the garage. I know there's just so many different options to go with, but we're willing to work with you guys in regards to the garage, design of it, number of spaces, whatever it may be, because this is going to be something that's going to be a crown jewel of the city of Oldsmar. So we want your guys' blessings as well in the design, and we want to be there for you guys. And we're going to be here, the same grocery store as you guys, and friendly faces.
I just want to say one thing real quick. I know 5 minutes is up. When I built the Express back in 2001, I didn't realize after a few months we opened up what typical market this Oldsmar is. So this discussion has been over and over in the past 15 years after we did the Hampton, the Hill Garden Inn, and then my in-laws did the Courtyard and Marriott. It's a very sensitive market. And you want to keep the quality here. You don't want to bring in competition at a certain level. This hotel industry can get real ugly. You want to keep the community strong. I don't know if I'm explaining this the way I want to. You have Hilton here, you have Marriott here, and there's room for a nice boutique hotel like we discussed. So many rooms, and in my opinion, because no one knows the market better than I do, I know everybody that sleeps here for the last 15 years where the business comes from, and we just want to keep it to a certain level. There's plenty of property up and down the road, and bring in lower brands could damage the little trend here in Oldsmar. It's something to consider, I mean, to think about. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. All right. I'm going to start over here. Councilmember Gannon.
Eric, can you please tell us about the pictures that you provided from where they were taken and the relative number of floors that this would indicate?
Yeah, absolutely. We don't like getting surprised by anything. So I don't want to promise, a waterfront rooftop bar. We can promise a rooftop bar, but I don't want to promise you a waterfront rooftop bar, because in order to start even seeing the water, you got to go 120 feet up. So, we were having dinner the other night and we talked about it. Can you even see the water at 7, 8 stories high, depending on what you guys are allowed to get us there. So I got my drone right from the location on the corner of Washington, flew it up 80 feet, was shocked to see you couldn't see the water. So I said to myself, how high do I need to go to see the water? Went up an extra 40 feet till I saw a glimpse of it. So I took the liberty of what's the best view, and I think it would be, the way we designed it is it would face the Oldsmar City Center.
Okay. And 120 feet is how many floors, do you estimate?
120 feet would be
The one where you
10
could.
stories with a
Yeah.
huge rooftop bar.
But that also,
that-
can I ask you?
Yes.
There's an adjustment made over at this property that there's going to be made for the new FEMA requirement. So I think that takes up about 6 feet plus, somewhere around there.
If you told me, well, I shouldn't say this because maybe pride might steal my idea, but if it was up to me, I would build something like they built the Concha did on 60, the Weston, put the park garage on top, on the bottom, and put the hotel on top. And then you got a nice, beautiful view of the water, have some office space. And that would be my idea, but.
But we're, with the garage, we're willing to help you guys out and do the garage.
So you were showing at 80 feet, which is
Yes.
potentially 6 stories?
6 to 7 stories.
6 to 7, and you were showing the difference in angle 1 and angle 2. Angle 1 is the attempt at the water view, and angle 2 is looking at the potential downtown.
Right. So angle
Okay,
2 would be
thank
the
you.
view at 80 feet, looking at the downtown. Angle 1 is you're trying to see that water view on how high you need to go.
And the way that you guys situated it in the original design is more for angle 2.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for helping me understand that. Beyond that, I have no additional questions of this applicant that have not already been answered during our work sessions.
Thank you. Councilmember Grimes?
At this point, no questions, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Saraki?
Yes, I'd like to just say, Eric and Paul, I want to thank you for all your hard work that you've done with your presentation and everything you've done for the city. I remember when I first moved here, and I remember when you built the Holiday Inn Express, and I remember when that was just, Oldsmar was nothing back then. I just want to say thank you for that, and I really appreciate you going out and taking these pictures. It gives me a better view for your application and what you want to, your desire for a hotel. And I appreciate your enthusiasm. I mean, both of you are, give great vibes that you really care about our city. And that's really all I have to say, Mayor. Thank you for that.
Councilmember Norris?
The art question, I just want it on the record, 1% to the art fund, if you would consider it. You don't have to say yes and it's not binding or anything, just if you would consider it.
This is kind of funny. Hate to admit it, I'm a millennial, and once in my generation, let it be filled with art.
Okay.
Do something cool to just awe people. So however cool we can do it, to just awe people.
Okay, so then my other question is since the hotels that you have built are the price point that's not the boutique, so the price point would be a little bit higher. I know you've come under a little fire for not having, experience in boutique hotels. I don't particularly share that. I think everybody should have a chance. I think that if it's in the development agreement, what we want. So I just want to make sure that it will be that price point that's a bit higher. I think it's $30, $40 or something like that in order for it to be, and I'm not saying anything's wrong with the hotels we have. I'm just saying in order, like Mr. Stanton said, that to have that different price point since we already have the ones that are at that price point. So you feel confident that your company can deliver that and
I can deliver any franchise, any structural that we both agree on. I'm building a big hotel in Universal right now. I'm a builder, I'm a developer, and I'm an operator, and the infrastructure of I can build a parking garage so cheap, faster than anybody can.
okay.
So
I've been doing this for 36 years. So it's maybe.
So to back this up, all of our hotels here in Oldsmar that we built in our family, we purposely over-construct them. And what that means is all of our buildings are made of concrete block. So not a hurricane, not a stampede of rhinos could knock it down. Back during the hurricane, when Oldsmar was asked to evacuate, the Holiday Inn Express, we stayed open and people had to evacuate and we took people in and we didn't price gouge because, we're
I don't
believers.
do stick, I do all form and pour solid construction.
Well, it wasn't as much the construction materials that I was asking. It was 3-star versus 4-star or amenities. It's a more upscale boutique hotel. That was my main question.
Correct. We can deliver. There's companies out there that we know that do, I know I mentioned this a while ago. You hire them, they do basically a history project on the town, and they study every little design of how Oldsmar was back in the day. And they present it to us, and it gives us the ideas for interior decor and allows us to put it in action.
Okay. And I do like that you have the wrapped garage, the retail. So it's not going to be just a garage.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Mayor.
And
Thank you, Eric.
money's not an issue. We're financially strong, and if that raises a question, we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Have you built parking structure before?
I built yes, I did a 5-story parking garage.
Okay.
On the water, where it's
On the
more
water.
difficult.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I had it's kind of a follow-up question. It might seem odd. I don't know if you recall, and it kind of lends itself to Councilmember Norris's question. when we were in the workshop, one of the questions that I asked both you and your competitor for that particular spot, just the hotel, I asked what you anticipate the project costing. And your competitor said 30 million and you said 18 million. And so I have to follow up on that because
Well,
that's been a concern that's just kind of
There's
sat in
only-
the back of my mind.
If you don't believe me, I can, David Wallace is here. He's an architect for all over the world. He does a bunch of hotels. And he
I know
does
Mr.
budget
Wallace.
costs. When I build a hotel, you can call Hilton, Marriott, Holiday Inn. Everybody's supposed to turn in numbers, how much it costs is. So if people want to invest in hotels, they advertise it costs $150 a key. Our family, including my in-laws, we don't turn in our numbers. Throws the books way off. I can't speak for these other companies, but I'm gonna come negotiate with you. I'm gonna go see my civil engineering. I'm gonna go to the architect. I'm gonna do it all, and take my son with me to learn, and I'm gonna build a hotel. And I cut out all the middle people, cut them right all out.
We're hands-on. We're the people there every day. That's just how you save cost. You gotta watch it.
I'm sure if these people built new hotels and done business with Corislav, nobody gets better prices in Corislav than I do. Nobody.
But you look kind of like you could still go build a few, Paul, I gotta tell you. I've known you for a long time. I'm like, wow, is this guy ever getting old?
If I give them 2 jobs a year, they know I'm gonna be there for at least 1 or 2 jobs a year, but it's just the thing, the way I operate. When they come here,
It's the experience in the industry. It's how do you negotiate?
Let David make a comment. Can you make a comment on that?
No, not at this point. It's good. You answered my question.
Well, I can sit here and tell you, and it's gonna cost 28 million.
I was just curious why. That was a pretty significant gap. And the first thing I thought of is,
They can't bill for anybody.
that's not the first thing I thought. The first thing I thought was, okay, well, there's a difference in the amount of money that's being put into it. I'm just being candid with you, okay? And so that's why I asked the question. But you answered it. So there you go.
And we shop.
All right. Anybody have any other questions?
One more, I'm sorry.
There's a pattern going here,
I know,
Councilmember
is
Norris.
Malio still interested in partnering the steakhouse?
It's funny. He just called me 3 days ago. He goes, Eric, stop playing games with me. What's going on? And I'm just like,
I was just curious.
give me a few days. We'll talk back. But there are other groups that have approached me. I'm just being very vague and plain because I had to get with you guys and just see where everything is at before.
Sure. We understand.
Thank you very much.
We understand.
Okay, just one more little comment about the cost. We use more people hands-on than more intended, like big companies.
Okay. Very good. All right, gentlemen, thank you. I will also comment that these pictures that you brought up here,
They look familiar.
they look very familiar.
Sure.
Because the mayor hired a drone operator, and I
Back
brought
in March.
these videos to our very first work session, and I said, this is 6 stories, but this is 9 stories with a rooftop. And it looked a lot like this 120, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a little vote on that, and you know how it went?
Consensus.
Consensus vote. It went 4-1. The mayor went down in flames.
That's right.
Just for the record.
That's right.
When I walked in the city in 2000, I started building the express, I didn't have a permit.
Uh-oh.
That's not a good story.
That's not a good story. Sorry.
Where can you start?
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. On that note, we're going to move on. All right. Let's see. Is Cohen Realty here? They are not here. Okay. So they're not going to be presenting. They're the group that has presented an offer, and I believe they've done it through CBRE for the hotel property, hotel proposal over at the library property. All right, so we're moving on. All right, that's surprising. All right, Prime Group, you're up. Come on up.
Oh, is this the same as this?
It's the same?
Then I won't.
I think it's got some new images.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What a great day. What a great evening. I am Larry Abbo, CEO of Prime Group, and I'd like to introduce some of my colleagues that are joining me today, if you guys can stand up. Jim Dupree, he's our Director of Acquisitions. Mayor Abbo, who directs architecture, Prime Design and Associates, and Terry Davis, who's a project manager and executing a beautiful job in Terra Verde, not too far from here, that will be opening up in early December. So thank you for taking the time and allowing us to join into this process that you have been going through. And I must tell you, I'm really inspired in a lot of the things that we've been hearing, not only about the city, but about your process, your commitment to the city's future, your vision for the future. And we really love and embrace that possibility of redefining what the experience of a guest or a resident of the city could have. So what are some of our project goals as we present this to you? It's really all about a lifestyle. It's really all about not one of the components, but all of the components functioning together. Being able to have a pedestrian destination, a park, an amphitheater, a place where people can gather and enjoy. That seems to be a lot of the conversation these days in planning. We are one of those companies that have been successful in executing many of these concepts into reality. Not far from here, I'll share with you a couple of stories, and I'm so excited about the project, I want to just talk about that first. But not far from here, we do run the hottest rooftop bar in Sarasota in a project called Art Ovation Hotel, which is an art-themed hotel. I realize that that's an important attraction point. We think it really brings people. It attracts people to spend here at Oldsmar. It allows people to spend in the neighboring businesses. But our project is more than just a rooftop bar and more than just a hotel. It's a place where people can live. It's a place where people can work. It's a place where social events can happen. It's a gathering place for the city, and it should be the most iconic project in Oldsmar. So let me share with you what our initial take on this plan could look like. You have in front of you the City Hall site, and hopefully you've got an opportunity to see this before with the package that we submitted, but recently Mayor handed out the updated presentation as we keep thinking and sharing some additional thoughts. Thank you very much, Jim. So, you can't see it on the screen. Let me give you a walking tour of the site plan. You would enter through I'm gonna just reference it as bottom, top, right, or left for the sake of orientation. And you would enter through a roadway that connects to State Street. Yeah, it doesn't illuminate on
Those don't work on those.
But that's okay. That's all right. I could probably find my way. So the front is the center of gravity for the community. It's Oldsmar Square. We believe that it's prime for an amphitheater or some other improvement that could display cars, it could have concerts, it can have gatherings, and it reminds us very much of a project that we have just finished building and are actively operating, where we're partners with NASCAR in Daytona Beach, and we created a center of lifestyle similar to this called Victory Circle. we built a Marriott Autograph called the Daytona, and it has a bar that relates to this space. So the building that you see at the top of the page, just to the top of Oldsmar Square, is the hotel. The hotel would be about 6 stories. The 7th story would be the rooftop bar. And I know that everybody thinks naturally about water views and all of these wonderful attributes and amenities that this community has, but really it's about the community. It's about looking at a festival. It's about looking at a car show. It's about looking at the people. The scale, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a massing plan that we did, really speaks to a personal experience in Oldsmar Square and the surrounding structures and residences, and being able to walk down and eat at the steakhouse on the first floor and having another restaurant near our retail on the side of the building, and preferably where City Hall would engage with its residents every day in a very personal way, in a way that it engages with the social aspect as well as the travelers that are staying in our hotel and can easily come and go to the apartments. So we have apartments on the right-hand side, 2 buildings, and one of the things that is very important as we consider development is not only can we build it, not only is there enough capital to do it, but what is the sustainability of a project such as this long-term? So I want to make sure that we build communities and we build spaces where people can keep coming for 10, 20, and 30 years, and it still be relevant and still be an iconic project into the future. We incorporated retail in key areas of the project that relate to the park, relate to the hotel, invites the travelers in, but it concerns us to do too much perimeter retail, and there's some signs of success in the density that we would create in this parcel that would far exceed the success that is visible on State Street and in other secondary roadways in the city. So can it be built? Yes, it can be built. Is it really what you want to be seeing 10 and 20 years from now if it's not successful? The answer is no. We need to make contributions that are positive long-term. We think that a design that would bring all of those uses together would be maximizing the attractiveness now and long-term. So
We just made a audio-visual change there?
There it goes. It's on.
Yeah? You hear me?
The red
Yep.
usually means it's on.
The red. Yeah. That's all right. I can speak up if not. So you have the residential buildings to the right, you have a parking garage that we would be building as part of our phase 1, and you have the hotel and the park area, all which would be constructed simultaneously. I think we threw a little bit of a different track when we mentioned City Hall and potentially relocating City Hall, and I realize that that can be a very personal decision for a city. But we just thought it was so perfect because your building can be in that center iconic piece of the puzzle that is missing in Oldsmar. You've invested so much money in some iconic areas already. You have a lot of attractions. And I think that the future for city halls is to be the most accessible it can be, the most reachable by a resident, and the more relatable. My personal opinion. Everybody, I'm sure in planning can have their own opinions, but we think by putting City Hall in the center of this park, near its residents, near the guests of the city, would be very dynamic. The City Hall relocation is not a requirement of our proposal. It was simply a great idea that we thought would really improve the overall participation of City Hall within this project and penetration into the city. And if it was elected, we would, of course, build the City Hall building first, assist in the relocation, thereafter demolition of the old City Hall and the second parking deck. We would contemplate building all of those at our cost. And then we've asked for some TIF program to be developed where there would be a reimbursement of development costs and 50% of the parking through TIF dollars. That would be over the future years. So, one of the things to consider from an apartment development site is that there is a sweet spot size that needs to be present in order for this to be a valuable, long-term, sustainable apartment project. And we felt that the library site offered that opportunity to incorporate the residential. If it's too small, you really just can't staff it professionally. You can't provide the service, you can't provide the supports to the apartment residents. And that sweet spot usually is around 250 apartments. It could drop to 200, and it's usually referred to as an institutionally sized project of apartments. So even though this parcel is separate from the library parcel, we thought it would create enough efficiencies for us to deliver a great apartment project, great apartment amenities, and be able to centralize leasing efforts while having sufficient scale to truly deliver all of the services, to deliver all of the staffing that's required for the best offer of service. And now I want to show you a little bit of if I can get this to click, I should probably be pointing somewhere else. Yep. There we go. So this gives you an idea of the scale of each of the buildings and size, certainly not considered a final design, but just an idea to get you to feel what the space would be like. Of course, to the right, you would see the apartments. You see the predominant building of the hotel that is connected to the Oldsmar Square. And then you would have, of course, the retail and potentially City Hall that is also in the perimeter of the park. Click. This is the library site that we're showing you now. And of course, we had to consider all of the density and height restrictions and all of the things that are truly possible. I think that most of our designs, and I can let Mayor speak to that, are generally conforming with the existing zoning and land development regulations. Certainly, it still requires all of the approval processes to be followed. But generally speaking, we try to be as compliant as possible in order to make this a reality and not necessarily need too many exceptions. The library site, we think, is key to be able to incorporate residential and, as I said, to make it of sufficient size to be a long-term success. And we think that the residential combined with hotel, combined with retail, combined with office is the absolute best solution for your project. Let me show you what some of one of the images looks like for each of these components. There we go. So this is the hotel that we're building in Tierra Verde right now that will be opening in December. And it would be a pleasure to invite you to visit it in the near term. Certainly after December, you can get a better experience. Now we'll walk you through our construction site that's nearly complete. In this particular case, we think it really talks about the Florida architecture that we would propose for this location. And we think that that rooftop bar that we've already developed there is pretty indicative of our intent. So you could walk through it, you could experience it, you could see how we activate that space. It's not just about building it, it's about how we're going to operate it. So we can talk a lot about the quality of construction. We can talk about the capital and finance, but ultimately your guests and yourselves are going to experience our level of service. You should really check out what our guests are saying about us. If you go to TripAdvisor, if you go to many of the social media sites about our various hotels or apartments or other projects, you would find that we're ranked in the top 5, if not number 1 in the majority of our markets. And that's really important because we're here to elevate the offerings in this city. We would offer something unique, different, very special, and by far the best in class. It's an upper upscale, soft branded, and I want to talk a little bit about what that means, boutique hotel. And so what that means is that we would be developing a unique brand that says Oldsmar all over that brand. but connected to a very powerful reservation system that would bring guests to this city. Whether that is Marriott or Hilton or IHG or Hyatt. We think that for this particular project, it's probably fair to say that it would be connected to either a Marriott or a Hilton reservation system, but speaking the language of Oldsmar through its boutique brand. That's what I mean by soft brand. Then we move on to the multifamily apartments. We currently are building about 1,800 apartments in the state of Florida. Many of those, hundreds of those have been recently completed. We're currently building them in cities like Daytona Beach as part of our One Daytona project, where we developed 2 hotels. There's 300,000 square feet of retail and 282 apartments that are 3- and 4-story structures, similar to the ones that we're proposing here. But we also have them in downtown Fort Lauderdale, where we have 15-story buildings that we're building, and we also have some beautiful communities in Fort Myers, in Fort Pierce, Naples, and other cities throughout Florida. So if you would take interest in visiting some of those sites, I'd love to walk you through some of the apartments, meet some of our leasing agents, and talk to some of our residents to see what great care we take of them. And then comes the retail, office, and potentially City Hall. This is an idea of what the building direction could be. First floor would be retail. Second and third floor would, of course, be office. Our proposal includes us building the cold dark shell standard inside of the office component, where then you would decide what the interior build out would be and you would carry that out. We are open and answer some questions to, instead of a lease arrangement, it could be a condominium, it could be a for sale. There are many things that we could explore depending on your appetite to relocate City Hall. Click. And then, of course, the library site buildings. This is a 3-story walk-up garden-style apartment building and a beautiful clubhouse facility that would house many of the amenities, of course, pool and other recreational areas, usually a media center. We have a fully functioning kitchen that would serve various events, barbecue areas, and a number of other very modern apartment amenities. So that's a 30,000-foot view of what we have in our minds about what we could deliver to you in these 2 sites. Let me share some of our accomplishments and some other communities that we have built that are somewhat similar, but distinctly different at the same time, because they serve the communities that they're in. And our job is to identify what the community wants, what the paying guest wants, and how to best take care of the guests of the city. In this particular first slide, we're showing a PUD that we developed. This is in the city of Homestead, where we've built thousands of homes. There were for sale homes. We also have rentals. We have 3 hotels there, a Hampton Inn and Suites, a Marriott Courtyard, a Town Place by Marriott, townhomes in the rear, a medical office building, and then multiple out parcels in the front that include out parcel for a bank, Wendy's. We're currently in the process of developing an Outback Steakhouse. So we have some great relationships with retailers who we've reached out to and are very interested in coming to this city as part of our project. And this is a joint venture that we're doing with NASCAR directly across the street from the Speedway in Daytona Beach. Very exciting project. This is what I was mentioning, has approximately 300,000 square feet of retail. It is all built at this time. Both hotels are open. We built a Fairfield Inn and Suites. We built this fantastic boutique autograph hotel called the Daytona that we just opened about 6 months ago. And then we're delivering our first apartments, I believe, next week of the 282 apartments. And they should all continue to be delivered building by building every 2 weeks until we get to the 114 unit building, which is the mid-rise building. That'll probably take a little longer than a 2 week span to deliver, but all under construction and soon to be finished. And that leads me to any questions that you may have about my presentation.
Very good, very good. And you did good on time too, actually.
Practiced it and timed it several times just to get it right.
You did it good. All right, I'm going to start off. Councilmember Gannon.
Certainly. I am, just as a preliminary matter, can you give me any idea of a percentage of the hotels that you build and sell versus build and operate?
Sure, that's easy because we don't sell any. We're long-term investors. We are vertically integrated with development, construction. We are our own general contractor, and we operate most of these asset classes. Retail, apartments, hotels are all within our level of competency. But this is our family. We're a family-owned company, and our strategy is long-term hold for an undefined period of time.
The 2 parking garages that are in the site plan for the City Hall location, are those also something that your company would build, or is it a contract relationship with another builder?
No, we are the general contractor, so we would build each and every one of these asset classes, the parking included.
And then I have a sort of a $64,000 question that you probably have guessed. Some of the proposals that we have in front of us this evening sort of pay homage to a design that this council envisioned and voted on and approved. And yours doesn't necessarily do that, and that's okay. I'm very intrigued by the apartments that you have included in your proposal for both sites. It gives me pause because I'm not knowledgeable in this industry as you and your colleagues are. And it makes me wonder if you could explain to me a little bit more why the apartments as opposed to the sort of garage wrapped in retail or retail above, or retail below condos or any other sort of housing arrangement or retail arrangement as opposed to the apartments. Can you talk to me about the economic viability, in your view, I understand this is completely personally your view, of some of the other proposals that might more directly address the council-approved site plan?
Of course. So we are building retail below hotels, retail below apartments. In the One Daytona project that I mentioned, we have a hotel that sits atop a retail pedestal.
It's incredible. It has everything.
It does. It does. And we're very particularly because we're long-term owners and operators of our product lines, that they be successful long-term. So our first job is not necessarily come here and teach anyone anything about this market. It's to identify the opportunities and the needs of the market. And after we did a lot of research into what is being absorbed in this marketplace, at what prices are things being leased, buildings being leased for businesses, what can those businesses afford? We didn't think it would be justifiable to increase the cost so much so as to have vertical integration of uses other than the retail and office. So when you start adding liners to a parking structure, and you start a liner or a wrap, yes, it could be retail, it could be apartments. We do that. We're doing that in downtown Fort Lauderdale right now. The difference is that that's a market that's at $2.50 a square foot for the apartments. And this market is in the low to mid $1. And so you have to be realistic because we need to invest our money in a direction that is going to best benefit the residents of this community and have a beautiful project that's not just a dream, it's a reality that people can visit and be excited to see every day, not just the year of opening. Maybe you could get some tenants to pay those very high prices that are necessary in order to be commensurate with the cost of construction, but is it going to be sustainable in year 5 or 10? The answer for us is no. The way we've measured the absorption in this market, it's truly not justifiable. So what we did is we created efficiencies by mixing the various asset classes together and creating a true live, work, and play environment, a place that could attract residents and guests of the city. And even better would be to join government into the whole mix. And that's why we think City Hall relocating and being a part of this square, being a part of this park, the activation of this city is absolutely central to this project. Is it absolutely necessary for our proposal? No, but I would encourage you to really carefully think about this pivotal moment that could be bringing City Hall to the residents and the residents to engage with City Hall more directly.
You've anticipated my next question. It is difficult to surmise a City Hall moving, turned sideways actually,
Yeah.
and being, mixed with retail and a restaurant inside City Hall. It's very, I have not seen that, and perhaps it does exist out there.
It's amazing.
Is there an option that you see financially, economically feasible without the Phase 2 City Hall relocation option?
Yes.
If that is not the pleasure of the council?
Absolutely. We didn't want to impose that on you. We just wanted to give you the opportunity to think about it. And I realize just saying those words can cause some pause and say, are you messing with our City Hall? No, we're not messing with your City Hall. We wouldn't dream to touch it if you didn't want to touch, but you potentially could have some pretty big expenses coming down the line. Is it 10 years from now? Is it 15 years from now? And you're thinking about your future. This is an iconic project for the city. It's centrally located. It's currently where your City Hall is. This is a unique opportunity to incorporate into something larger. And the current trends of hotels and apartments is to incorporate these various users, these various uses, and get them all to blend together. Just dream of the moment where you could walk downstairs and have a coffee with a resident of Oldsmar. You don't have to go that far. It's all within walking distance. You have a festival you're planning literally on the other side of the street, which I would envision closed for the festival. And you would be walking to the steakhouse for dinner afterwards. That would be on the bottom of our hotel. And then some of your staff members could just walk through the park to get to their apartment. So this activates the downtown, this iconic project, 24 hours a day. It's something that a lot of cities have learned over the years. Big cities and small. If you don't bring residents to the downtown, and this is a microcosm of a downtown, so it has all of the attributes, and we have to consider that. If you don't bring some of the retail uses that are sustainable and usable by the guests and residents, it will not necessarily thrive. It will just be another hotel. It would just be another apartment community. That's not what we're here to do. We're proposing a lifestyle solution, a lifestyle center for this city, something that it much needs and it doesn't yet have.
Thank you. Your extensive experience, your impressive presentation, and your candor are very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Those are all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Grimes.
Just one question. You mentioned the TIF program and working with the city on that. If that
Yes.
was not part of the option, does that change anything for you?
Yes, it would. This is necessary in order to fund many of the public improvements that the city may or may not be in a position to fund. So we're not asking you to use your current funds. We're asking you to commit future payments that we're going to make to the city and use some of those new values, new real estate taxes, new funds that are available in order to reimburse us for accelerating the public improvements that the city would decide to incorporate into its development perspectives.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's my only question.
Councilmember Sraki.
Thank you, Mayor. On your site plan, you have 2 parking garages. Both are 2 stories, correct?
Yes, it's 1 parking deck above ground.
Why wouldn't we just consider 1 floor and not the other?
That's a great question. I think it really comes down to proximity of the uses, relationship of the spaces, and the scale of the buildings. And maybe I can invite Mayor to answer a little bit more about that from an architectural standpoint.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Sure.
Meyer Abbo, I'm the architect on the project. Very excited to be here. I actually am ecstatic to be here after hearing everything tonight and the various community members speaking. In terms of design, just to piggyback on what you were saying, Larry, the parking garages, we actually studied initially an option to have a multi-deck parking garage, 4 to 5 stories. We felt it was way too massive. We looked at liners. We didn't feel that it was appropriate as it really created a lot of inefficiencies in the building. So in terms of the apartments, we really wanted to wrap the corner, define the street. And the most important aspect to us about this project is really the civic center that we're creating. That is the heart of the project that is really defined by the hotel, the apartments, and the office retail with potentially City Hall moving to it. Like Larry mentioned, it's not a must. The floor plan and the site plan work without that happening, and the proximity of uses can work either way. We just simply felt that doing a grade plus 1 level of parking would be a significantly smaller scaled structure that would be less impactful on the site.
Okay. That was the only question I really had, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Norris.
First, I must thank Councilmember Katie Gannon and you, Mayor, for all of the questions that you emailed and had answered. And you thought of stuff I didn't even think of. So I have to thank you. But I do have some questions.
So you did think of some.
I thought, not as good as hers. Hers are a lot better than mine, but she answered a lot of my questions. But the one thing that I appreciate that you do everything. I do like that, and that it's a plan that is very well thought out, researched. You know what you're doing, obviously, with the projects that you have done. But like Councilmember Gannon said, it's so far off of what our vision was. But then again, we're council people from 5 different backgrounds. We're not builders. My biggest concern is that it's a package deal, that it's $3 million for this property to purchase the downtown property, but it's only $500,000 to purchase the library site when we paid $1.7 million for it approximately, and it appraises approximately at $5 million. So for $500,000 and then to put an apartment complex on the entire 7 acres, that's my main concern with this proposal. I thought the same thing about the 2 parking garages, and you actually turned me around on the City Hall with your explanation to the council. I didn't like the idea at all. I thought, what, people have to go, through restaurants and stores to get to City Hall? It's kind of weird,
Question.
So my question is, and I think that it's answered in this, is it's a package deal. If we don't want to do the whole deal with you, then it's done, right? Would it be separate? Would you consider the downtown without, and I think you even answered the question because you said that the 250 units were needed to make it work for you. So if we didn't want to do the apartments on the library site, would that take you out of would you not be interested?
Well, we would want to be in the city, and we would like to participate with you in realizing the dream of the city that is sustainable. The apartments, by the way, even though I said about 250 is the sweet spot, we really can only get about 222. So I just want to point that out, total between the two. And that's really important because to answer your question, I have to think about making sure I'm still true to the comments I made before, which are a true intent and a need to deliver the best products that we can. And by the way, not only do we do these various asset classes, but we do them very well. If we didn't have the library site, I don't think we could do residential.
Okay,
So we'd have to take all of the residential components out.
gotcha.
I think you would be doing the project a disservice because I think what's really fantastic about what you're planning here is that it can truly be a representation of a live, work, and play environment. Could we consider doing just a hotel? Yes, we could consider that.
The downtown.
That with the park, et cetera, it would really throw the economics off because the scale of the project allows us to do much more interesting things, like what we've started to offer within our site plan. That is just the first version we've submitted to you. I must say it's not the first draft. We have probably 10 drafts in our office. It's the best, most immediate idea that we can supply to you of many to come. So we have to find ways to enhance this and make it most attractive. What's really cool about our company is that we're exposed to a tremendous amount of data of what guests want of each of these asset classes. So we get a lot of information from our apartment communities, from our franchisors, such as the Marriotts and the Hiltons, and et cetera. And we get to understand what people are really saying. They don't necessarily come up to you and tell you. They do it on surveys. They do it on a number of different ways that get filtered down into relatable information that we can incorporate into best future projects. And this is what we're offering you through this proposal. We think that the relationship of these uses is going to make it a totally different project. You can have a beautiful standalone hotel, no question about it. Would it be as impactful as a downtown iconic project? I don't think so. I don't think you would have all of the attraction. I don't think you would have the 24-hour living. I don't think you have the relatable spaces that is a wave of the present and definitely of the future.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
Oh,
you.
I forgot to ask the art question. Would you be willing to put 1% into an art fund? I have to ask everybody.
Well, yeah,
or a percentage.
Absolutely. We always incorporate art within all of our developments, and 1% sounds like a very attainable level.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you very much.
Most of my questions, quite frankly, have been answered. I did have one question related to the City Hall property. If the hotel was carved out of it, meaning it was awarded to a standalone bidder, would Prime Group still be interested in the project?
More likely not.
Okay. So if it does get carved out, then you wouldn't want to be considered?
I would think that is our opportunity to be the heart that runs, that pumps the blood through this activation that is much needed. If we're not a part of that, I think that we wouldn't have the opportunity to create this impact that we're looking to create through this project.
You've answered most of my questions. When you spoke of the TIF money earlier, I'm assuming you're talking about TIF as it relates purely to growth in our taxable value.
Correct.
Versus a reference directly to our CRA.
Well, it is growth. You would have to advise us as to whether that's handled through the CRA. Usually that conversation is through a CRA.
This is a CRA right here.
I understand. Yep.
But the CRA period runs out. We don't have a long period, and we have about 6 years left in the CRA here.
I understand.
And I don't know that the legislature right now is of the mindset of extending them if you've stayed up on what's happening with some of the
I
CRAs.
do. I do think there are opportunities to have an agreement transcend beyond the sunsetting of a CRA. That's obviously for someone on your staff to counsel you accordingly, but I do think even through an interlocal agreement, those things would be possible. Again, a conversation to be
And I was
had.
the one who asked this question when you got the question back. I'm just curious. Why the amphitheater? I mean, you realize we have somewhat of an amphitheater that sits on the water right down the road.
We just think that we're going to rock it in this location. We're going to rock it.
Rock it. Okay.
Yeah. Look, you were talking about museums of cars, and I think you really need an activation of the space. Now, the museum concept is a different concept today than it was 10 years or 20 years ago. If you visit our hotel, Art Ovation in Sarasota, it's a museum within a hotel. We invite artists every 3 months to display their art, and we expose the local art to all of the travelers into Sarasota. We speak the language of the city. That city is very proud of the per capita spending it has on fine arts. So we represent them in that. We have to find a way to represent the history of Oldsmar within this project, but we have to find a way to engage people. It's not just visiting a museum anymore. It's having coffee and having a sandwich.
I got
and
you. I don't
eating.
mean to, you answered my question. Just for the record.
Yes.
There is no museum. That's not what that is. It's supposed to be a display of an old.
A display, I understand.
Just so you know.
No, I understand. But about attracting people, it has a lot to do with food and beverage and music and all of those things.
Fountains
so think outside the box on
Fountains.
Yeah, fountains, okay. But think about outside the box. The amphitheater doesn't have to be just another amphitheater. It has to find a way to activate the space. Those funds can be spent very wisely. We can share some ideas with you about that.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, I did have one additional.
One quick question.
Did you have more?
Nope.
In a hopefully short period of time, we're going to separate these two property locations, City Hall and the library, for rankings. Where does Prime Group fall if the projects cannot be separated?
Well, we would like to be considered if they cannot be separated. Let me make sure I understood your question.
Okay, so
where would we fall if they cannot be separated? Well, then we would be the right choice because they would be together.
Well, they're going to be.
Question,
Yeah,
maybe.
let me give you a point of order. I'm going to call it a point of order on this, that we've already voted to separate.
Okay.
Okay, and so that's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Right? And so how would this impact you? It would impact you in the sense that if the council decides that they want you to be the top-ranked project, and clearly when we get to that part of the ranking on the library property, you would be ranked high at the top, right?
Right, but what I'm saying is if the library property and the downtown property are presented as a package and inextricably intertwined, are we ranking Prime Group as one of three potentials on the library property needlessly? Because if there's not a willingness to build one
Well, the
without
original
other.
response from Prime Group was that they were interested in continuing to be ranked there.
That's what I want to make
Hence the
sure
reason
of.
that's why we established kind of the rules of the day.
Rules, right.
So
Some of the
if-
discussion has given me concern that's
Well, I
not
don't
the
think he
case.
said
Give
that
me
he
an
wasn't.
opportunity, I
think
can
what he-
clarify it.
Yeah, I think what he said was that they would have to reevaluate, which is essentially what the answer was, reevaluate what the proposal is.
That's right. I think it would have a lot of the same components, particularly as to the hotel. I think that the park or square is an important component.
Okay.
We would much rather do more than a hotel.
Sure.
To create that sense of space and city center. But I don't think that the apartments with the reduction of the library side by, I think it's about 104
Right.
apartments that go into the library side would render the remaining number of apartments feasible.
That's
So
what I
we
wanted.
would have to modify that use as part of our proposal, but we would like to be considered nonetheless.
Okay,
And we would
that's-
revise our
that-
proposal accordingly.
Thank you, that answers my question. Thank you.
Oh, Mayor, I do
Thank
have
you.
one more question.
I'll let you all, one more question
One more.
each.
I just have
So
one more
pick a good
question.
one.
I do like that you retain your properties, but how would that work if you owned City Hall? We'd be paying you rent?
Well, we've done that before, actually, with the city of Homestead, believe it or not. We relocated their city hall to one of our office buildings. Then they ultimately built a new spectacular city hall. But I did present to you the option, both in answering the questions that were presented, I think on Friday, and earlier in this presentation, where I said we would be happy to do that, of course. But if you didn't find that to be in the best interest of the city, then we certainly could speak about creating a condominium so that you could own your space, or other options, which could include owning the building. There are numerous possibilities. I just wanted to let you know that we would commit to building the building at our cost and give you those options.
Okay.
We'd have to negotiate the options.
Councilmember Strachey.
Okay, last question. Thank you, Mayor. The common grounds, we've got the amphitheater, we have the park. You will own all that property if you're voted in to take this project. Who will take care of the common grounds, the city, or will you have an HOA? How will that work?
Well, we asked, and actually we answered the question that was asked on this very topic, and we would like for the city to maintain the park because we think that it will be for the city's primary benefit. We would develop it, and we would then have to talk about whether it's through easements or it's through deeding back a portion of the project or something along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
But we don't pretend necessarily to own it long-term and not maintain it. I think that there's a lot to be discussed. There's a lot of details to be discussed about a project like this.
No question.
That's it.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Very thorough. Good
I
job.
appreciate all of your questions.
All right. Next up, TFMAR. Taken me a while, but I finally pronounced, it's all letters. I wanted to turn it into a word so bad.
Francisco Semch, Managing Principal of DFMAR, and we located at 6912 West Limebo Avenue, Suite 102, Tampa, Florida, 33625. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, City Manager, City Attorney, we will be presenting the revisions of our original proposals and some additional information that we provided. Part of that additional information that we provided was the full team behind the project, and most of the team is here present. The rest couldn't make it for previous commitments, so I would like to introduce them very briefly. Mr. Clarence Butt with the CTV Financial is our developer partner and investors. And we have Dave Kemper with Stantec, Civil Engineer and Landscape Architecture. We've been working with them for more than 10 years in diverse projects. He has done a lot of work here in Oldsmar, and they keep doing work for the city and for us. And we really enjoy that relationship, but we plan to keep it integrated in our team. And Rod Voigt, Vice President of Kokolakis Contracting, our contracting manager partner in this endeavor, and our consultant to the whole process for pricing, construction methodology, etc. And we have two members that were not be able to hear. One is Wakefield Beasley and Associates. They've been bought by Nelson lately, so now it's Nelson Wakefield Beasley. I was the regional director for Florida in 2000, and we have kept a good relationship when I opened my business a few years later. And they were our partners when we present our proposal for the new race stadium development for the city of Oldsmar. It's the same people that are going to be part of our team. And TRC Worldwide is our structural consultant. We're working with them for 17 years now. And they have a specialty garage group that we have participated in some design build bids, and we have been successful because of their pretty much the aesthetics and the cost effectiveness of their approach to a parking garage. So that is what we bring into these projects. Just so that's like to include in our presentation. Now, quick summary of the project, and then we go into the details about our changes. As you have in the presentation, the concept still remains the same. And as a conceptual plan, it may change in the process of negotiation, discussing the process and whatever will be beneficial for both parties. But it's still the same. We have a central park. The central park is part of all the pedestrian communication in between all the different explorations, areas of plazas, to discover it through all the experience of the foot traffic. Going through the park, enjoying a live park, and at the same time connected to the potential monument for the city of Oldsmar. So everything will be part of their entertainment. They will be part of the city. Still with the same approach of 40-60, trying to do it's 35% of open area, 65% of buildable area, to have that amenity that Oldsmar had about parks and open spaces. And now the buildings will still remain the same concept. We have on Tampa Road, pretty much a belt of beautiful buildings surrounding, being the face of Oldsmar on Tampa Road. And we will have the parking garage wrapped by the apartments to have all that sense of community and participating in the same amount of activity that we presented in the first time, the same amount of units, 183, with 30,000 in retail, 40,000 office space, and restaurants and retail, residential, all mixed up in the base of the parking garage mixed use with residences and commerce. In general, that's the concept remains. And we have, in the location of the buildings, 2 axes that aim to the center of the park that can be a defunct feature. It can be relocated according with the discussions that we will have in the city. But that 2 axes point to the 2 stop signs. So it's safe for people to appreciate what's happening in the park, and not people will driving and get distracted to it. So there will really be some kind of a sign to be a destination point for people to fulfill the curiosity about what's going on in Oldsmar. But that will be the sign that will represent Oldsmar, the iconic buildings surrounding the park. And of course, the same concept of having access to the parking garage from State Street. So the street in between the parking garage and the hotel and the first mixed-use buildings will be pedestrian completely. And then the park with all the parking around it, we can be closed. So we have a large capacity for events and entertainment during the weekends. It decides to have all that area. And everything will be communicated from the monument all the way to the hotel, from visitor and residents. So that's the concept remains. The additional information, before the revision that we did is we increased our offer to the city of Oldsmar regarding the site price. And we provide additional information. One of those is that we work with the planning department to find the closest information and formulas to get with the impact fee, and that was included in the proposal. And at the same time, we presented the economic impact for the city of Oldsmar that we work with Pinellas County. And as you can see in that piece of paper, pretty much, when we include the cost of the construction for different aspects of the development, meaning residential and non-residential, and then you apply the multiplier, for example, 25 million investment become a 35 million impact, economic impact to the city. The multiplier type 2 goes to 45 million. The employment generated by the construction alone, 250 to 450 for residential, and non-residential, around 230 to 430. So it's a huge impact to do this type of development for the city. So that's pretty much is the additional information that we submitted to the city and the revisions to our proposal.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Gannon.
My questions of this applicant have been answered through our work session and the Q&A through email. I
Very good.
appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Francisco.
My questions as well.
Mayor, I have no questions. Mine are all answered. Thank you.
Wow.
Well, we've been doing.
I know, we've been working on this for a while.
What is mine? I already know the answer. They said yes on the art. I have to say, this is definitely, in my opinion, the closest to our vision. But I'm really, because I'm not a developer and I'm not a numbers person, I'm really confused about the money. And I even read all your questions, Katie, and I even talked to Al about it, and I'm still a little confused. I'm not sure about the subsidy, the $11 million subsidy that Oldsmar would pay for the parking garage. Could you explain that to me, please?
In the market, that's the investment that City of Oldsmar will provide. And we have presented a couple of solutions that how that money can be stretched when we talk about both sides. But yes, that will be an investment that the city will have to do in order to be competitive in the market and have the quality of the.
For you to build the parking garage?
No. For the development to happen.
Whole development to happen?
Yes. This zoning for the TCCR, which is assigned to it, can have 2-to-1 capability of 4-area ratio. That means that you can build quite a bit, doubles for what is 14 acres, that's 600,000 square feet. Okay, it's high density. In order to provide the highest density, you definitely need a parking garage.
On both sites?
I'm sorry?
On both sites?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I know there's option 1 and option 2 for the library
Right.
site.
And those options were presented for you to visually see what's the difference. So in these cases, in order to be competitive in the market and increase the density that the city always have envisioned to have, the parking garage is a must. And usually this type of developing high-end neighborhoods because the rent goes pretty high when you do this. So that's what the city of Oldsmar will invest in order to create that density in a small space, like 7 acres, in order to create that foot traffic and the vision that we had to connect both sides and create Main Street and finally really give life to a downtown Oldsmar with the west end and the east end.
Okay. You already answered the art question. I guess that's the only question.
That's all right. That's all right. Are you done?
I am.
All right, I have a couple questions. It's really probably more clarifying. I know that you said in the questions that we sent out that you were still interested if the projects, if you were selected as for one of the projects, but not the other property, I should say property, one of the properties, but not the other property. Certainly, your interest is to do both. I understand that. And so that is still accurate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I want you to clarify, just so I make sure I have this correctly. If the hotel is carved out of the area for the City Hall property, then you are no longer interested in the project in City Hall.
No, we are. But it has to be under conditions.
Different condition.
Yeah, well, in order to have really a consistent quality in the design and the purpose of the whole master development, the hotel has to be part of the master plan and has to integrate their utilities, physical space, access, plaza, cafe, retail within the concept. It has to be part of it. So we will be able to work with somebody that really has the same goals.
Okay.
So the answer to that was yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you clarify something for me? Because there was a couple things on your questions that I didn't quite understand. One had to do with option 2 as related to the library property. If I read it correctly, the question was regarding the parking structure, and your answer was that if option 2 was selected, you would want the property then conveyed for $1. And does that mean that you want it conveyed for $1 because of the amount of additional investment that you would have to make?
In both parking garages.
In both parking garages. So you would then no longer be willing to pay $1 million for that property? Because it kind of conflicts with each other.
Well, here's the difference. If we get both projects, we have mentioned to the city we will build both garages for that amount that they have in the capital investment. But we have to put money. It's not enough. So we have to put more money to build the garages. If we only do the library site, we will pay for the property, but the city will invest to build the garage.
Okay. Very good. Did you have something you wanted to add? I see you sneaking up over there. I'm not cutting you off.
Just double checking.
Yeah.
It's basically, yes, I'm Carmen Ramos, I'm with FSA. Basically, I was just trying to make sure that, yes, that option, that third option, if we may call it like that, it's basically if we were to get both, if we do City Hall and the library, and you choose option 2 for the library, then your investment would only be the 11 million. We'll deal with the rest of what the cost will be to do both parking garages and the full-on development. But we take away the $999,000 for the library.
But not the full $1 million.
Not the full $1 million. We're giving you a buck.
Carmen, you are all hard. I am telling you.
So
I am telling you. All right, very quickly. Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Now, this was for both.
If you want to do other time, I allowed you to do, what was it? 5 and 5?
5 and 5.
Yeah. And so if you want to spend some time specifically on
Yes.
the library property, go right ahead.
Okay, so what we submitted to the city were two options after reviewing the original options that we have a large parking garage and really became prohibit the numbers when we really put the numbers to work a little more specific. So we decided to create those two options to present to the city council in order for them to see the opposite sides of it. And in this exercise was really good because we found through the hybrid that ground parking and parking garage were able to accomplish almost the same amount of density than with the original one and create a similar open pedestrian areas for activity and events. So we will be able to create that ground parking that will be a promenade connected to the plaza. That will create a larger space for events, and besides that, we have plazas in between the mixed-use buildings and the hotel. So all that activity for the citizen to have a downtown experience, all the foot traffic, all the interactions in between all the citizens and visitors will still happen. So option 2 to us is the most effective that match the density of this site and to create the large amount of foot traffic that both sides require in order to join and create Main Street. Has always been the dream for Oldsmar.
Okay.
And we still, we are within the numbers. We were 142 with the original units. We have 135 with this one. And that was the beauty of combined parking garage with apartments around with the investment from the city.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So now that we've heard from the presenters, we're going to move into the next part of this process.
Mayor, can we take a break, a 5-minute break?
That's probably not a bad idea, because I have a feeling we're going to be here for a while.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to recess till 9:10. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Now I can get my water. I've been wanting that water for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, there you
By the
go.
way, Tarpon was done at 8:15, okay? Patrick just texted me. He said, all done, no issues, 8:15, so.
It's all or nothing. I gotta hit the right one.
Yeah, I think you do.
There you go.
And I did see it. You didn't walk me through, but I drove down there.
Good job. Great presentation. Thank you. You're a good public speaker.
Yeah, it's easy because I
I
believe
think
it.
I met you at
Good presentation,
ICSC.
thank you.
You were at ICSC.
I do go from time to time.
Yeah, I think I met you 2 years ago. I've been going there for 20 years.
Is it the Las Vegas or the?
The Orlando one.
Orlando. Yeah, I go
Yeah.
periodically.
Yeah, I think I met Jim there too, yeah. You did a really good presentation about the project, I think it was Delray.
Tom
Yeah,
Trask,
Delray
good to meet
with
you,
the
Terry.
the high school.
Thank you.
No, we built a hotel.
Maybe that's what it was, a hotel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that, it was really good.
Yeah, that's a great example of a city that has really transcended.
I know.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm very involved in the Florida League of Cities, and that's why I was involved in all that. And I know there's a couple of council members and the mayor there.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, they
They've
set
been
up.
through a lot of changes with the whole CRA thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But they really made a big push to
Yeah, nice to meet you. I think I met you at ICS in Orlando. Yeah, my wife and I go all the time. We have a graphics company, we specialize in, this stuff.
Oh, yeah? I think that sounds like really good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So is it graphics as in printing or?
Strictly commercial real estate. We do developers, we do all the site plans, all this stuff. That's all we do. We've been in business 20 years.
So
now.
graphic design?
Graphic design for commercial real estate. We do a lot with Cushman & Wakefield, different people around us.
Interesting. So you have their standard present or their template presentations that
Yes.
you create, and then they send you projects for you to produce. the
Actually, a lot of times for that, we design the templates for them and they give it to their staff, their admin people, that they can put in the photos and the text. Yeah, and they print them in-house, they have big printers.
This is actually, we have a team of about 5 people in our marketing department. And, obviously for unique presentations like this, I think they do a fantastic
Oh,
job
this is great.
presenting this.
Yeah, I got it today, I showed my wife, because that's what we do, and she's like, wow, it's beautiful. She's looking at it, and I'm like, yeah.
We're always looking to create alliances that allow us to collaborate on others. There's so much to be done. We do websites in-house these days.
Yeah.
So much about imagery.
Yes.
How to use the materials. It's not just the architecture.
I have water. You got me one.
Yeah, we do a lot with developers, we do a lot with shopping center owners, like management companies that manage 100 shopping centers around the state. We do all their site plans, their websites. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can give you my card. Here's my card. My cell's on there, my email me there, and then I'll send you my business. But if you need help, we can help.
Wonderful, thank you.
It's very interesting. Great job.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're gonna be having an open conversation about it, so you'll hear it. I got some, the only concern I have is that when I was 20, I opened up a computer store.
I didn't think he was in here with me.
IBM dealership.
I'm thinking
I was
it's how
leasing
they're
a
funking the
retail
girl. The new
space.
girl?
I was
Okay.
gone, I had, all that money was gone.
I said, Andy, you guys are punking me.
Lease money.
I went to the
That's the only thing I
bathroom
want
for
to
damn
say.
dog.
I don't like that the city won't own it.
It's
Right. That's the only thing.
I'm like,
That's not, I think it's more about the impact to the project.
Yes, I actually like that.
Yeah, if, red light.
You're right. It's not even just about the it's capital.
I wish your mammogram.
That's a way to really elevate the presence of the city.
I like it. Yes. You got it.
I know, and then I looked up there, and I'm just read everything by just the title. I'm not going there and sit down and pack
But I kept myself busy. I had a I was just thinking about my first meeting. I think one of the times I forgot to vote there. I don't think you noticed, but I think
Given the back, I borrowed it from you.
Oh, thank you.
first time I didn't.
You scare me. We already don't know when we like you.
We know we don't.
Maybe I should have.
Carry much more weight.
For the rest of the agenda items, just leave the title.
Even better.
I'll read fast.
I'll read fast.
Oh, no.
I know, right.
How you liking?
I'm liking. I'm liking. Did you see what Gabby left me?
Right.
Yes.
Everybody's making sure.
That's sweet.
Did you see this out?
Left me a love note.
What does it say?
Says, good luck, Sandy. Love, Gabby.
Oh,
That's sweet.
that is
And did you see my love note?
That's so Gabby.
Aw.
I was like, that's adorable.
So I should take a picture and send it back to her.
a good idea. So far.
Did you see my note?
No.
No, I just got a highlighter.
We're mic'd up, so. That is very thoughtful.
I'll post it later. Aw, my son. Congratulations, Mom. You rock. House, but he's my baby.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Everyone could please take their seats. During the break, I'm going to, with a little bit of consideration from the team, I was approached by Francisco. There was something material in his presentation that he asked to clarify, and he's not in the room. There you go. Oh, I didn't see him. If you want to come up and clarify that. You were hiding on me.
Okay.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify the question that was asked. We respond that question regarding we were interested in the site next to the City Hall if the hotel was carved, and our answer was no. So I just made a mistake in my reaction to it, but the letter stated very clear the reasons why. So I'm sorry for that.
That's all right.
Misunderstanding.
So that just confused me more.
Well, no,
Okay.
here, I'll take it from, I'll take it from. The reason I asked the question specifically that I did was because in their most recent update, they included in that a response to a question that was asked if the hotel property at City Hall was carved out.
Right.
Excuse me, would they be interested? And the answer is no, they would no longer be interested in the rest of City Hall property.
Oh,
Okay?
okay, that's good to know. Thank
Did
you.
I state that accurately? Thank you, sir. All right, so we're going to move into the next part where we're going to have discussion about proposals. As we talked about earlier, we're going to start over at the library property. I realize depending on how you view things, that might make things a little more challenging, but that's the way we're going to proceed. And part of the reason for that is because all three proposals for the library over there said they wanted to remain in it. So at that point, it doesn't matter, right? Having said that, I want to give a little bit of guidance to the council on this, right? Certainly, I respect everyone's opinion up here and how they manage themselves. We're switching gears now, right? And I got this advice from somebody many, many years ago, and I've been out on and off the council. You know, I feel like Beaverly when I say this, longer than, you know, anybody else up here other than Tom. Tom, okay, Tom. This is the part of the meeting where you know, we've spent time listening to the audience. when there was the opportunity for public comment. We spent time listening to the presenters. Now they don't exist, right? This discussion is amongst the elected officials to make this decision and, have our conversation, share our opinions, how we feel about the proposals. And so it's important to remember that that's where the focus is, right? And so we've gone through the process. By the way, I want to thank all the presenters for doing an excellent job and really digging in deep. So I think I'm going to get us started, and then we're going to go down the row. And what we're going to do is talk about each proposal, right, for the library property. Share your thoughts on it. There's no wrong opinion. We all have the same vote, and we'll come out with our process with some weighted voting. I can only speak for myself in the sense that I'm using 3 guiding principles when I approach this, right? And number 1, which to me is the most fundamental, is this the proposal we are discussing, is it what we want where it's being proposed? Period. Simple. We have the benefit of months of public discussion, months of feedback from local citizens. I've had the privilege of presenting all, except the Prime Group, who we recently received, all of the presentations to multiple groups in Oldsmar. And, when you do that, you get some pretty, quite direct feedback on what's being considered. And one of the things that I want to make a point of saying is this council, and Councilmember Grimes is new, but she's watched what's been going on, and I know she went back and watched all the meetings, and specifically to tonight's event. We went through a very specific process, right? And while we may not be, we're lawyers and software people and insurance and, all kinds of different industry up here, we didn't do it on our own. We did, in fact, bring in local experts to help guide us and apply what their experience is in this market, right? We brought in retail people, we brought in architects, we brought in designers, hotel people. So, our concept plan, I wouldn't be quick to dismiss, is my point, right? But so, my first guiding principle for me is this is what we really want. The second is, which is very important, and recognizing that the presenters are all in a difficult position in the sense that this is the initial proposal, right? I mean, the devil's always in the detail. The dollars are in the detail, right? But it's what we've got to work with. And so the second guiding principle for me is very simple in the sense, is the financial part of their proposal, be it initial, a good deal for the city and our taxpayers? Plain and simple. All the other moving parts to me starts to get a little bit fuzzy, and at the end of the day, that is very important, right? This land wasn't all gifted to us, and I'll remind everybody, we spent over 20 years accumulating it, okay? And so that's the second part. And the third part, do you feel 100% confident in the ability of the presenter, both financially and in their experience for what they're proposing? For me, those are 3 key factors. And they might be different for you and you, but they're probably, you might categorize them some other way for yourself, but I think as a rule of thumb, they probably fall into those 3. So I'm going to jump in talking about the proposals first, just so maybe it makes it easier to get people in a rhythm, right? Because it's a little unusual for me to go first, but I want to do that to try to make it easier. So the library property, to me, You know, we've always kind of envisioned that property over there as an extension of the downtown area from here, right? That's the big vision, the big long-term vision, right? I know the gallery has had problems. There's reasons the gallery has had problems, okay? I'm not going to go through the whole history of it, but there are some reasons for that. You know, it went in a very different direction for what its purpose was. Therefore, it, in my opinion, didn't really recover, you know? But there's a line of sight that has been a vision of this city for a long time that curves around over to that beautiful library we built. And that's a vision that has been worked on and inched along for a long time. And I'm gonna talk about the economics. You know, I'll remind everybody, just last year, we had a proposal on that property over there for like 50 condos that were actually very nice, high-end condos that we ultimately chose not to pursue. And they were offering us almost $900,000 for just half that property. Okay? And so for me, you know, there's a couple of things, and I'll say this, I think the economics of the Prime Group for that property over there, well, I recognize it is, to view it on the holistic picture, you do have to consider over here, but I don't believe that that is very strong economic proposal, right? $500,000 for over there. I'm also not sure that that's really what was envisioned for that property over the years. I think it was kind of envisioned to be mixed use, even though it might have a lower number. DFMR, I gotta get that right. You know, there's a little bit of financial reality that I go through when we're talking about all these things up here. And you'll hear me say it again when we get to the project over here. But, you know, we don't have unlimited resources here, right? I believe that the city, and through a lot of Al's leadership, we've identified that we can afford, with a little bit of creativeness, to build a parking structure, right? But we still have the infrastructure part. You know, we have some road stuff to do. And I would say to you that that is going to be costly. And so when I look at what's currently being offered over with the DFMR proposal at the library, as much as I love what's being presented, because it's mixed use, and it gets some density going over there, because, you know, for this to work, we have to have density, the whole picture. But the numbers still are weak, even if we're not involved in paying for a parking structure, and it's ground parking. The Cohen project, clearly that's the most strongest financially. You know, I think that it'd be nice if that project was reconfigured where it used a little less land, even if it made some adjustments in their $1.75 million for 2.8 acres. And, you know, I do have some concern about inventory in the market, but, you know, there seems to be a lot of interest in the lack of concern over the inventory that we're talking about bringing into the market. And so, you know, those are just kind of my, you know, 1, 2, 3 on not my ranking. I don't mean it like that. I mean, let's first discuss this before we actually come back and rank, right? Because I'm interested to hear what everybody else has to say. And so, Councilmember Gannon, I've gone to my right all night. I'm going to go to you one more time.
I really appreciate that short rubric you sort of provided, Mr. Mayor, those 3 questions. Is it what we want and where we thought about it. Is it financially a good deal for the city, feasible? And do we have confidence in the ability of the applicant to financially and in terms of experience execute what's being presented? And the library property that you summed up so well in those 3 short questions, all of my factors, I'll call them. I mean, without necessarily giving my ranking, I am interested in increasing the density in the downtown area, which made, for me, DFMAR and Prime Group's proposals strong. I also appreciated, though, in Cohen's offer, the price point, particularly, and the fact that it didn't necessarily take up the entire parcel and could even maybe be reduced in its footprint. I see that as a sort of opportunity to spur additional economic development there, whether it's mixed use in the future, or maybe it turns out to be apartments anyway for the rest of the property. Okay, fine. But I like the idea of sort of getting that initial investment, starting that spark, starting that spark and moving that along. We recently approved in between the Moose Lodge and the former pest control, the building that looks like the bank building, the design looks like the bank building across the street there. And I like to see this sort of interest in piece by piece kind of creating what we're trying to accomplish here as far as what we want. I really like that question. I appreciated also the sort of city's limited initial investment in infrastructure that is contemplated in the Cohen project proposal, as opposed to the DFMAR proposal. The kicker that's really getting me, though, is the experience. That third question is a big deal for me. And one of the reasons why it's such a big deal is because you know more than anybody up here that we've done this before. We've done this before. We've gone through these negotiations before. And I'm not saying that, some of this won't be the same again, but we have tried to do this with one developer. We've tried to do it with, single developers. And so there's a strong inclination for me to go with an entity, a project that has a lot of experience in doing what they do best. Because I don't have the expertise in this field. And so when I see a stark difference in past projects that have been executed by Prime Group and up until this recent revised presentation from DFMAR, with the different entities now listed as participants, that gives me pause. And the other aspect that I didn't like was seeing it go from the initial proposal we saw when they had an MOU back in February to then 2 proposals, or actually what I thought was 3 proposals, but then it turned out it's only option 1 and option 2, and the initial one is actually not even on the table. So I was a little, my confidence was shaken in that ability to execute, because this project, whether it's library or city hall, has been promised before, and it echoed the sort of fears. The lack of the direct experience. The other issue I had was the feasibility. I am surprisingly not necessarily opposed to the apartments from Prime Group, just because Tony Tanico's project created a similar sort of density, and I'm not convinced that strong retail is necessarily what we need right there. I think that sums my thoughts and comments on the library property.
There you go. Wow, that was good. Councilmember, I keep wanting to call you Gannon. I don't know why.
You're looking at me and you're looking at her.
Gannon Grimes.
That's all right. Earlier, I was looking around before the meeting started. I'm like, where's Gabby? She is late. I'm going to clobber her. Sorry.
No worries. Councilmember Gannon, you did touch on a lot of my concerns as well. And I think the key is, as you presented, Mayor, the experience is the key to success. I truly believe that, and I've lived in this city for 21 years, and it's been a topic quite often for quite some time, and it's something we want to see happen, and I think we have to connect and we have to choose someone who shares our vision, but also pushes us to maybe look outside our vision a little to create that success that we need. Really, all of the things that you said were some of the things that I was going to touch on. So really, that's, at this point, that's, where I sit. It's
Very
just-
good. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple points. I really love this concept of the apartments. I think that's a great use of that property with the clubhouse. Kind of reminds me of when Harbor Palms was built back in the 70s. They had the clubhouse with the new development. I think that's a great idea for that particular property with the apartments. Saying that, Eric, Mayor, you had a great point about the taxpayers, our money that we spent on this property over the 20 years. The best use of that is the person that wants to give us the best amount of money for that land, the best investment that we're going to develop that land, and that's where we have to get the money back from our taxpayers that we spent that money to buy this land. In saying that, I wasn't even thinking of having a hotel on that particular property. I wasn't even envisioning that, but I actually like that concept of putting a hotel there and moving forward with apartments, sort of like we have a design here. I think that will help the town center grow in vacancy, because right now there's nothing there. I think that would help with the density of more people. But as far as this property goes, I feel that it's important that we get the best dollar to pay back our taxpayers that we spent that money on, and then develop the land as far as a hotel and apartments. That's how I look at it.
Okay. Councilmember Norris.
Okay, I agree with a lot of what y'all said, and I disagree with some. So what I do agree with, I also like your vision, consideration of financial and ability for the presenter to follow through. Thank you for that. I believe that it's very important that we're good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And I do also like the vision that we've had, the wraparound, the extension from west to east. I personally do not think apartments are the best for that. I do like that they retain ownership. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I do work in the multifamily industry for 30 years, and it's a trend that they build them, they sell them, they sell them, sell them, sell them, and quality goes down, 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 because profit is more important. I'm glad that y'all are a family company and you care about quality, but I have seen it one too many times that apartment complexes change hands. So I did not think of a hotel being there either. I drove around and it kind of makes sense. There's other hotels there. The money is amazing. I mean, it's more than what we paid for the entire parcel. We'd still have 5 acres to do, maybe something else. So with your parameters, I think that I'm lean. I know we're not ranking right now. We're just talking, right?
We're just talking.
We're just talking. This is hard. This is not an easy thing. I don't know if y'all think this is easy. This is not easy. We've been studying this for a long time. So on DEFMAR, I like the vision, but there has been negotiations in the MOI, and then the MOI didn't get, so this is just this is tough. I don't know what else to say.
And I'm going to make an assumption here with DFMR, that if the hotel was carved out of that as well, there would not be an appetite. I don't know that that question was ever actually asked, but regardless, because there wouldn't be a hotel there.
And I want to thank everybody for your presentations and the time and everything that you guys put into it, because this can't be easy for y'all either.
Can I ask another question, please, Mayor?
Sure, were you done talking? Yep.
Yes, Mayor.
Everyone's referencing, what was the actual, did we purchase the land for initially? What was our initial?
Well, I believe we bought it for 1.65.
Yeah, about 1.6.
I think it was 1.65.
And it appraises at 5.
Is it actually
Approximately.
5? I thought it was like
Approximately.
4.3, something like that, when
Well,
we had the appraisal done. And
We
then the offer.
accumulated it over the course of years. We have about 1.7 in it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
And it's
we had an offer on it, as I said earlier, for the 50 condos that were being proposed.
900.
And that was going to take
3 acres.
3 acres. It was 2.8 or 3.2. Anyhow, it was right around 3 acres. And that offer was for, to be precise, $870,000.
Plus impact fees.
That's what?
Plus impact fees.
Oh, impact fees. You know, I assume.
Good memory.
Thank you. All right, I looked all this stuff up, man. I don't remember this. You kidding? I'll forget it when I walk out of here. No, I'm just kidding. But I did research it to make sure it's accurate. You know, I assume we're collecting impact fees from everybody. Okay? I recognize that that always becomes part of the discussion. I understand that, but that's just kind of an assumption that I typically make. Anyhow, did you have more questions? Any other discussion comments? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and rank. And as I said earlier, the way we're going to go about this, we have 3 proposals. So we're going to rank them, 3 being your favorite, 2 being your next favorite, and 1 being your least favorite. Or if there's anybody who wishes to pull anything, drop anything, by all means say it. As I said earlier, if we have 3 people who say that, then they're off the table, because that would be a majority. And I will once again remind everybody that we are ranking the order in which the city manager is to go negotiate. But my bet is that he's going to go get a deal done with someone, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be a lot better than anything we're looking at right now. I mean, especially because later on in the agenda, his evaluation for his raise is up, so. I'm just going to say. So I'm going to go about ranking this with taking a little bit of assumption. I'm going to rank Cohen as 3 as my first choice. And the reason for that is the economics. My hopes are is that we can end up with more workable property, that perhaps I'm going to go with Prime as 2, that perhaps that they can find enough space to do some work over there. And DFMAR as 1. All right, Gannon? Councilmember Gannon?
My ranking for the library is, gosh, this is tough. Cohen as 3, Prime as 2, DFMAR as 1.
All right. Councilmember Grimes?
Cohen is 3, Prime is 2, DFMAR is 1.
I don't know why I'm writing this down. I know our clerk's tracking it.
Cohen 3, Prime 2, DFMAR 1.
Cohen 3, DFMAR 2, Prime 3. Sorry.
Repeat that?
Cohen 3, DFMAR 2, Prime 3.
So you gave 2 3s.
I mean 1.
Okay.
Cohen 3, Prime 2. No, Cohen 3, DFMR 2, Prime 1. Sorry.
All right. Can you repeat that one more time?
Cohen, 3,
Okay,
DFMAR, 2,
okay.
Prime, 1.
All right, very good. I will ask the clerk to read the results, please.
The total for Cohen is 15, DFMAR is 6, Prime is 9, so the top ranked is Cohen, second ranked is Prime, and third is DFMAR.
Very good. All right. Go on. Bear with me one moment. Okay. City Hall. Talking about the, I'm going to just kind of go through on my end, and we'll just go right down the line, and I'm going to start with Commonwealth, and I'm going to talk just a little about the pros and the pros and the cons. I should have just combined it, right? Commonwealth, really like the company and their experience. I think they've got, specifically as it relates to what they're proposing, they certainly have a long history of executing. It was funny because Councilmember Grimes and as well as Councilmember Gannon mentioned, I've been here before, right? Hence the reason one of those top threes are, you know, ability, experience, and that kind of stuff, because, you know, we've been to this movie, unfortunately, you know. And I would also say that I'm still kind of applying that whole thought process of those 3 rules. But I really like their experience. I think they probably provided, as it relates to their proposal specific to the hotel, because, you know, theoretically, we are evaluating 4 hotels, right? Between the general master developers and so forth. But I think that their proposal was very detailed. Certainly, their contractor has an outstanding reputation for the use of technology and finishing jobs on time. I mean, it may or may not be known, but there was, you know, we've had discussions with their contractor about parking structure here before they were even part of the discussion, just because of how impressed our city staff has been. Downside, as it relates to the rest, we still have to find other development partners. We have to find development partners for additional density, for retail. I joked a little with them earlier about their willingness to negotiate. I don't know that that's really a true concern, but I think that they're very firm in what they're presenting. And the other downside to them is they're not local. They're not a local company. And so that's kind of my pros and cons as it relates to Commonwealth. Councilmember Gannon.
Are we talking only about Commonwealth at
That's
this
it.
time? Okay.
Go through, and we're going to talk about each of them, then we're going to come back and rank it up.
Yeah, my pros with Commonwealth were certainly the experience. I also appreciated the price on the acreage. I appreciated the aesthetic and the potential economies of scale with using FinFrock to work on both a hotel and a garage that, you know, we've kind of come to terms with as a council and as a city that, you know, we will need it because of how we're situated. I like the scalability of the project and their ability to complete it quickly. I think we have long promised our residents, as you know, a product, something, not just something for the sake of building it, but something real and something beautiful. And I think they have the potential to build that, the experience necessary to execute it and the confidence in it. The only drawback is, yes, they're not a local company. That is one thing, and you know, it gives you a little bit of hesitation because you want to know that it's going to be operated in the way that we expect. and also pays homage to our local eccentricities. You know, it incorporates what makes Oldsmar Oldsmar. You know, and so from afar you wonder, okay, is this going to be something that looks pretty but could be in any city? Their sort of architectural renderings give me confidence, but that is my one con, as you mentioned.
Very good. Councilmember Grimes.
I was impressed with that they didn't feel they needed to change their proposal. They had the confidence and belief that what they presented was what was best. And, you know, I got from the presentation, a comfort level that they would be able to share in what the vision has been. I mean, their renderings, you know, I felt were very close aligned. I understand the concerns of them not being local, but I think their reputation and Finfrock's as well, you know, somewhat eliminate my concerns with regard to them not being a local company.
Very good. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. The only con that I have is what Gannon and Sandy said is they're not local, but I love the design. I love their price. I love the rooftop steakhouse. I think the biggest asset is that they're willing to work with us on the garage, which is the key for us. We need that garage.
Commonwealth?
Yes. Or with Finfrock?
Finfrock.
Yep.
Okay.
I think it's an upscale hotel. I think it's a nice design. Those are the cons. I kind of like the whole project.
Very good. Councilmember Norris.
Pros, I do love the design, a lot of the design. I know that they have a lot of experience with upper scale. I love that they are working with Finfrock because they're an established company. And the only con, well, yeah, the not being local, but isn't this the one that, this one's $127,650 per year for leasing the garage spaces versus $200,000 per year, and I think you mentioned that was 35% less. That, to me, is a con. No.
Get it? I like what you did there.
That didn't sound right. That's it.
All right. All right, Simone Group. I'll go ahead and start. I like that they're local. What a surprise. I like that they have a history here. I don't think that can be understated. Clearly, their willingness to go out of their way it has been demonstrated already. That can't be understated because there's a lot of economics that go along with that. And mind you, economics are key to this project happening. I like the fact that they view it as a legacy project. Because, you know, you'll do things for that you wouldn't do otherwise. There's something to be said for that. You know, the whole team's local. The architectural team's local, the whole scenario. And that adds value in my book. Once again, we still have to find outside partners. We still are going to have to go through that process of the out parcels, of finding people for that. And while they have a lot of experience in hotels, I don't think they have a lot of experience specifically in this type of hotel. You know, and that's a concern. You know, that becomes important when you know what you want to get done. That's what I got. Oh, another plus, let me just finish, is granted, I know that they're also taking a little bit more property, but it's also what they intend to do with that property. That's a plus. Because I don't know if you know this, Councilmember Grimes, but you know, they're actually proposing 1.3 acres with the intent long-term. Short-term, what was described was they would use it as parking while the garage is still being built. And afterwards, the intent when the garage was done to turn it into some type of commercial space, be it retail, whatever the case might be. But the 1.3 million is important. All right.
I had nearly identical pros and cons. The hyper local aspect of the entire team is a very big pro for me. The legacy project, the nature of the personal investment of time, expertise, and attention to detail long before and long after the project is commenced. The price is also a pro for me. The prior local work, big pro for me. The willingness to work with the city on building the garage, whether it's lease to buy, selling back, the different financial options that could get us to a finish line, get us to an agreement, a signed agreement to move forward with the project. Big pros. The only drawback for me, the con, might be a little bit of lack of clarity in some of the presentations, and then a slight negative in the experience in this type of hotel that we're looking for, just as you mentioned, that sort of mid to upper level hotel, boutique hotel.
Very good. Councilmember Grimes.
I don't think I need to reiterate things that you both have said again. I know we've all, a concern is no boutique experience. However, I think he addressed that quite well in saying that he's going to be building based on plans, and those plans will be something that will be worked out with Al through that process. So, you're building according to someone's specs. They're not just going to go out and do whatever they so choose. So I feel that, in my opinion, that is not a negative, because it will be built based on those plans. But, I love the local factor as well, so.
Very good. Councilmember Saraki.
Thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned before, one thing I really liked about their presentation is you can tell it's coming from their heart. They really care about our community. They care about our city, and that family. You get that family feeling from their presentation. And like Sandy just said, I don't want to repeat. I just love the idea that the rooftop, the steakhouse. I think the offer is fine, and I really don't have any cons.
That's
All
it.
positives.
All right. No cons.
Same thing, that you're local, you have a lot of experience. I initially shared the concern that there was no experience in boutique, but their desire to fulfill our vision, and a development agreement has to be made prior to any groundbreaking or anything. So I think that we will be able to work out, I think that the potential of getting what our vision is. Pro, all of what they're saying about the garage. I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know what 10% over cost is. I don't know what that means, but they are willing to pay more money for the spaces if that isn't what we do, if we don't buy it back from them. So I like that. Yeah, I think everything can be worked out in the development agreement. I don't have any cons on Simone.
Very good. All right, I'm going to move on to Prime. Love the company's experience. I think that I love the fact that they have a focus on density. While I may not like how it's presented per se, because I've believed that for a long time. In order for us to have some success, we have to have an eye on density. Personally, I would look to make some variances on height to try to help accommodate some of that, quite frankly. Well, look, you can't have it both ways. You either go out or you go up, and truthfully, I've always believed that the concern that we've had in doing that is the concern of area neighbors. But if you look at the way something is staggered and how far back they go, we don't really have any residential other than those mixed-use units that Bu's built on State Street even. So you go past that, now you got a parking structure. Now you got this, that. I mean, how many of you ever realized that the Hampton is 6 stories? It's the tallest building here. Ever noticed it? Most haven't. I can tell you that right now. Well, you're rare if you have. Very few have. And so, in any event, but I like that. Clearly, the full development side, build and own, that's attractive. But I'll be quite pointed. And it is what it is. I wish they would have been part of the process earlier.
Yes.
Because while I understand their logic as it relates to our concept plan, I don't agree 100% that there's not, I think there's more than one way to do it. And the other thing that I don't like, and I don't like this concept, when it comes to master developer, and that is, I'm not crazy about the turning over of control, right? I mean, it's the one thing with master developer that you make that decision. I mean, because it's, it's the upside, the downside, right? And so, but I don't view that as a positive necessarily. Councilmember Gannon.
Similar thoughts. I actually really appreciated the density. The city manager and I got into a lively discussion last week about whether it's retail or whether it's residential that could serve to drive additional economic development in our downtown and the library property areas. I see some advantages in the master developer proposal for the entire area in the way of infrastructure investments, as opposed to, carving out a hotel and, laying all the groundwork and the, piping and everything that Nan Bennett, our Public Works Director, has expertise in that I do not. But from a brief conversation, I understand that it is extraordinarily complex to develop a site, move 50 feet one way and do it all over again and connect them together. It can be done, and it has been done, but there are certain economies of scale that come into play when working with a master developer for the whole thing. I also share the concern about giving up control. That's difficult for me, as you might imagine. I agree that it would have been nice if they were involved from the beginning, because I felt a little bit of a disconnect on the understanding, until tonight really, of the understanding of what Oldsmar's about. And then I kind of really saw that there had been some additional research done. The other thing is the city hall issue. I don't see us moving our city hall. It was interesting to contemplate though. One thing I really did appreciate about Prime's presentation is that they didn't necessarily give us what we asked for. I appreciated the consideration of economic indicators and the expertise in the field and the candor, because I'm not entirely convinced that we know what's best. I understand we brought in, local expertise. I appreciate that. And I also understand that, Prime isn't necessarily a local group, but their experience in the field and knowledge of what might work and what might not work is undeniable. So I'll kind of leave it at that. After I reviewed their proposal, I honestly thought to myself, oh, why did we only consider condos when we were making, and I don't know if everybody only considered condos when we were piecing together our initial designs, our individual designs, with our glue sticks and scale rulers and everything. Did you? You can see, I only considered really condos. I didn't necessarily consider the feasibility of apartments. And getting to think about, millennials and workforce housing and I just appreciated the sort of forward-thinking presentation and building not for today, but building for 10 years from now. I think that's really intelligent, and one of the things that Oldsmar has done pretty great at. And it even goes for some of our, leisure services offerings. I think about the hockey rink, and we're the second, Lightning made, complex, and it's like, yeah, we think to the future. We don't think about, what used to be popular. We're looking to build something new, something different, something people will want to live near, to come see. So I think it's innovative and actually really cool that they gave us not necessarily opposite of what we asked for, but incorporated what we asked for into what they believe, based on their experience, is economically feasible.
There you go.
Those are my thoughts.
Again, we're obviously
I'm
on the
sorry
same.
I'm in front of you.
No, that's.
Maybe we should switch it up
No,
so
no,
that somebody else can
I
give their
appreciate
thoughts.
it. I was extremely impressed with their presentation. They obviously have been doing this and doing it well for quite some time. One of my main questions when I met with Al was, explain to me apartments versus this, and he, addressed that that's what the market is driving, that's what's gonna work. And so, as we've all said, we don't have experience in doing this, and having someone with that capability to push us out of our box, to think bigger, to think differently, I think they did that with their presentation. And my reservation is the same as shared by the mayor and Councilmember Gannon, is giving up control of our land and all that we've accumulated through the years. It gives me a little discomfort, but that's okay. They're very impressive. I'm done.
I'm sorry, were you done?
I'm done.
I thought you were. Councilmember Saraki.
Well, thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to say the Oldsmar Square City Park idea, the amphitheater, I think it's awesome. I love it, because I was in Arizona a year ago, and I saw this little amphitheater they had in Arizona, and it was similar to what you had here, and I thought that was a great concept. The apartment idea, I think, is great. I know Linda had mentioned she doesn't like apartments, but I think that's where we're going. The future is apartments. Rents are high. I think that's where the economy is going with apartments. Your design, your ideas, your presentation was excellent. I think what you've come up with for our city hall, our downtown area, is a great design. The only thing I don't like about it is the 2 parking garages. I think that's a little overkill for our little area. I'm almost thinking maybe 4 stories and then 1. And then the other thing is what other council members have said is the city hall thing. I mentioned it to you on our break. I had a computer store, and after 9 years of having a computer store, I leased this property. All that money was gone when I sold that company. It was gone. That was the only mistake in my life that I thought. And after I sold that, I said, I'm never gonna make that mistake again. So with your proposal here to present to us to get rid of this city hall and build a new one, as I mentioned, I don't like that idea. And then
Can you
also,
kind of direct us?
oh yeah, sure. And then the last thing that you mentioned was the turning over the control. Sorry, Mayor, I was getting excited.
I know. That's the worst that happens, man.
I really do
bad
like
at
I
that,
do
but-
like their presentation. I mean, they did a great job. And they really came up with some good ideas, but unfortunately, that's the only thing I don't like, is giving the city hall away. There's no way.
Got it.
Other than that, yeah, the amphitheater, that was it. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Norris.
I think that they were at a disadvantage without being involved from the beginning, because they didn't get to see what our vision was. Unless, I don't know. The amphitheater, I disagree. We have an amphitheater. I like the dancing fountain, but they addressed that they would be willing to switch that up to some other component. I agree with council that I would not like to give up the control of City Hall, although I did like the explanation of that's what some towns are doing, and people love going downstairs and having, I just don't see our city employees having to come in and go through all of that and have that all work above all of that. I don't. And I kind of like the orientation of our city hall that we have now, coming down Park Street and having City Hall right there. I like the orientation of it, so I can't envision how it's gonna look if it's in a different configuration. I guess their experience is second to none, obviously. They know, I really liked the explanation of the dollar, I can't remember it all, but the difference between the numbers or the difference between apartments and condos at $1 a square foot versus I don't remember. But it gave me something more to think about, even though I do prefer condos and residential to apartments based on my experience in the business. The biggest concern I have is tying it with the library property at $500,000 in apartments at the library part. And so if it's tied together, then that is my biggest concern, that in order to have them do downtown, then it would also be not the best economic decision on the library property.
Very good.
And everybody else said everything else, so.
Okay, DFMAR. Like the team they've assembled, I think they're a quality group. I think they added some of the experience that maybe they lacked, specifically in some projects that we've even named before in the past. I take that as a real positive. The team's local. My perspective on some of the design stuff may be different from some of the people up here. Like I've said, I literally have stand in front of groups PowerPointing the different designs, right? And talking and looking to see what the feedback's been. And the design that they presented, to me, was kind of the closest to the same vision that the council had. That being said, they also, they have that long vision, that around the bend vision. I actually measured it just because I was curious in comparison to a safety harbor or something like that. It's about a half mile all the way down and around. And so you're talking about a nice little walk. And
From City Hall to around?
yeah. So in any event, once again, I have concerns over some of the control issues for a multitude of reasons. And I'll talk about that maybe later, but that falls into that category. And this, even though they've stepped up the team, the core team that is really running point, this would be kind of a first of their kind. And so that is a concern when you're looking at overall pros and cons, right? They've added some folks, some partner companies that have great experience, kind of view them as the core. And so there you go. Councilmember Gannon.
I, again, echo most of your statements. I won't repeat them. The incorporation of the council's desired site sort of plan, their local presence and local investment. My biggest concern is the experience issue. And also in their proposal, the amount of property that remains public but not public. I'm not sure if you recall the question and answer that were emailed, the areas that would be maintained by the city but not owned by the city. And it actually constitutes a majority of the property, which I was kind of surprised at. Not that I'm necessarily looking to avoid any, city commitment, but I am looking to, in a way, maximize or monetize the most of the property as we can. It's in the city's best interest to make a good use of the property while also incorporating elements that the public can enjoy, but that was my only other concern.
Very good. Councilmember Grimes.
Again, I won't repeat what you both have said. Same concerns, mostly that this is their first venture into this type of arena, and the experience that I think the others bring to the table is, my biggest negative.
Very good. Councilmember Sraki.
Thank you, Mayor. With their site plans, I actually like the way they have everything flowing, the design of how they flow from different areas within each site plan. I actually really like the way they put that together. That's one of my big positives I like about their project. Other than that, I really don't have any cons, or everyone has said some. Katie mentioned a couple things, you mentioned a couple things, and I just, that was the only thing I wanted to mention, Mayor.
Very good. Councilmember Norris.
And my pros on this one is it's closest to our vision. And I don't mind the surprise, the green space. I think that what we want is a place for our residents to be able to come and enjoy. And if there's a hotel and there's mixed use and there's a fountain or whatever we're gonna have, I think that that's what our citizens will enjoy. I think that if we have it too dense, I don't think it would be I don't know. I just don't imagine as many citizens coming to enjoy the space if it's so dense with retail and commercial and with everything. So I personally like the green space. And I think that the con would be, can they do it? Can they get it done? Yes, they do have new partners and they have good track records there. So, but if we carve out a hotel, they're not interested. So that's a con as well for me.
Very good.
So that's it.
All right. Well, let's move on to ranking.
Yikes.
And
Can we have ties?
only if they work out that way. You mean you ranking them? No, you can't have ties. Make a decision, Strachey.
All right, fine.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate everyone's work on this up here. A lot to go through. And so I appreciate the diligence you've taken and all the time you've taken. So, I come back to those three guiding principles for me. Is it what we want? Is it a good deal? And ability, right? I mean, to me, those are kind of the core competencies. When we had our first planning session, some of you might remember that my desired approach to this did not include master developers. Okay? And there was a reason for it. Some of it was past experience. But a part of it was also, I guess you could call it control if you want, but I look at what we have to work with, and I'm in no hurry. I mean, I'd like to get it done. I mean, I like everybody out there with shovels tomorrow. But when you look at Dunedin or you look at Safety Harbor, right? You're never there in any part of their town, at least I haven't been, where you felt like you were at a commercial West Chase. West Chase is beautiful. They got some great, planned developments there that are cool, fun. But there's something about a town that to me is different. Maybe I don't know if I'm using the right words to articulate. It's not as pretty. I don't know. It's not as planned.
Didn't develop organically.
It's like it takes longer. I got it. But it's still your town. Their council, over there decides what goes on in their parks that are in that downtown area, right? They set the rules. The people who get elected, right? And it's, there's nothing wrong with master developers. I don't mean it that way. I mean, they have a lot of value, and it's probably more relevant to what you have to work with. But, call me old school, but I like this being and feeling like Not so perfect downtown, for lack of a better word. That's probably not the right way to say it, so. But I see Jeff out there smiling. I just think that it makes sense for us to kind of understand that I think there's a difference in kind of taking our time and going organically. I, like you, Linda, feel strongly about having a big green space. Of course, I've always liked the idea of the dancing fountain, the Bellagio style, because I believe that will draw people out. And, the amphitheater is a cool idea. We know it is because we have one, right? I mean, that's not, we've got one. And it packs them in over there, right? It also costs a lot of money to continue to run. We have to pay for bands, we have to pay for setup. And on some of the stuff that we're talking about, listen, I don't know where the money's gonna come for it. Us going in halves and some of the, I've always viewed the growth in revenue was gonna pay off on part of the parking structure. And so there's a little bit of fiscal reality that goes into this. I'm not sure that we've got it on some of the bigger planned stuff. I also think we make more money as a city by doing a little bit of code creep, lack of a better word, crawl, whatever you want to call it.
A little bit of what?
I called it code creep, but that's because I'm in the software business.
Code
I meant to say crawl development, for lack of a better word. Look, we had that one time when we talked about, and I understand the concern infrastructure-wise, right? There are ways to mitigate that, okay? And part of that is plotting land, and now we're targeting a brewery. Now we're, it's one-off, okay? But it's a town when you're done. And so for me, my ranking is going like this. It's going to go the hotels first, and then it's going to go the developers second, which of course eliminates. I'm going to rank them. Don't worry, Ann. She's looking at me. I'm going to carve out the hotel for me because I like it. I like the economics. I like us kind of on the cash flow side. It makes a lot of sense. So it comes down, of course, to Commonwealth and Simone. Man, that's a tough call, right? Because I have a very high level of confidence in the fact that Commonwealth has done what we wanted before. But I don't know. I can't get away from the local part of it. Because I agree, there's plans, there's this, there's development agreements. I recognize that there's some economy of scales as it relates to Commonwealth, as it relates to the parking structure and FinFrog. But there's also some, look, I don't know what the deal looks like with Simone's offer to take a lead role in the parking structure. That's what this whole negotiation part's about, right? How much sweeter does that look for us or not? And so, but the fact that it's there, it's an open door. And so we have 4. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go Simone 4 as my first choice, Commonwealth 3 as my second choice, Prime as my next choice, and DFMAR actually is eliminated, but I'm still going to give them my last choice.
What, could you tell me that again, Eric? I'm sorry.
Sure. Simone, remember we have 4.
Right.
So 4 being my highest. Simone, Commonwealth 3, Prime 2, DFMAR 1. Gannon, you're on deck.
I have very, very similar feelings. I will not repeat them. I actually was going to ask you if we could award the number 3 twice. My ranking is Commonwealth 4, Simone 3, Prime 2, DFMAR 1.
All right.
Commonwealth 4, Simone 3, Prime 2, DFMR 1.
Prime what? I'm sorry.
2.
Councilmember Saraki.
I want to ask you again, can I have 2 4s, please?
No,
All right, fine. This is tough.
because we have a bunch of 4s up here, I'm afraid, you know.
This is tough. All right, I made my decision. I'm going with Simone 4, Commonwealth 3, Prime 2, and DFMR 1.
I should have gone last.
Should have done what?
Nothing.
Gone last? No. I'm going with Simone 4, Commonwealth 3, DFMR 2, Prime 1. And it still goes back to that.
No, it's not. No, I said that I should have gone last, and I shouldn't have put it on you to.
Oh, I don't mind going last,
ranking.
but my vote's the same no matter whether I go first or last.
You missed my point, but I appreciate that. All right. City Clerk.
Yes, Commonwealth has a total of 17, DFMR 6, Prime 9, Simone 18. That makes the top ranking Simone, second ranking Commonwealth, third ranking Prime, and fourth ranking DFMR.
Very good. All right, so I'm going to ask you to do this once again, just to read the results from both the library and from this, from the City Hall property, and then I'm going to entertain a motion to accept the results. Yes, Tom?
Ranking was Cone total 15, DFMR 6, and Prime 9, which made the top ranking Cone, second ranking Prime, and third ranking DFMR. The City Hall ranking was Commonwealth total 17, DFMR 6, Prime 9, and Simone 18, which made the top ranking Simone, second ranking Commonwealth, third ranking Prime, and fourth ranking DFMR.
Very good. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the results as read.
So moved.
Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is the consent docket. I will call on our city clerk, Ann Nixon, to read the consent items.
Item number 4, approved minutes of October 1st, 2019 City Council meeting. Item number 5, approved minutes of October 15th, 2019 City Council meeting. And item number 6, accept resignation of Sandy Grimes from the Code Enforcement Board.
Does anybody wish to pull anything? Seeing none, except for the resignation. Kind of weird, huh?
Yeah, it is weird.
All right, okay.
What were we on?
We're on the consent docket. Anybody wish to pull anything?
No.
No, okay. Chair will entertain a motion to approve as
moved, Mayor.
presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, we did item number 7. We're going to go to our city attorney, Mr. Tom Trask, item number 8.
We have a public hearing this is the first reading of ordinance 2019-08. I'll read that by title only. Ordinance 2019-08, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, submitting to the electors of the City of Oldsmar a proposed amendment to the city charter, said amendment amending section 3.07C of Article 3 of the charter to correct a codification error by reinstating language that provided for filling of council vacancies and providing for an effective date hereof. That was a reading of ordinance 2019-08 by title only.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Seeing none, anybody, the chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Norris?
Yes.
Councilmember Saraki?
Yes.
Councilmember Grimes?
Yes.
Councilmember Gannon?
Yes.
First reading of ordinance 2019-08, submitting to electors of the City of Oldsmar proposed amendment to the city charter, said amendment amending section 3.07C of Article 3 of the charter to correct codification error by reinstating language that provided for filling of council vacancies, passes with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you. City manager.
Mayor, item 9 is authorize city manager to advertise 2020-004 RFQ for general engineering services for transportation and stormwater. This request for qualifications is for general engineering consultants to provide ongoing as-needed services that may include analysis, design, permitting, and construction management for the City of Oldsmar streets and stormwater projects, assisting the city in addressing technical and regulatory issues with the Florida Department of Transportation, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and Southwest Florida Water Management District, assisting also in providing permit review services, performing stormwater or traffic studies. The budgetary impact is as yet unknown and will be brought to council on individual work orders, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 10 is request council approval to waive bid requirements and authorize the purchases of the repair, replacement, or supply of utility plant equipment from Mater Electric Motors per the Lee County contract number B-160144KC on piggyback form 17-011. The work covered by the contract will include repair services for pumps located in the lift stations, water reclamation facility, and the reverse osmosis water treatment plant. Work will be completed based on bench rates provided in the Lee County bid, which is valid through August 18th, 2020. The contract also covers the purchase of replacement pumps for projects, routine maintenance, and other emergency repairs. The fiscal impact for 1920 and as an estimate is likely to exceed $25,000, and the actual amount will depend on circumstances, and we will follow purchasing policy and bring that back to council. The work will also be charged to one of the following 4 budget divisions, which are all in the 401 fund, which is the Water Sewer Fund, and the staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Mr. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, get in there.
All
Grimes.
right. Sandy.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 11.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 11, request council approval to again waive bid requirements and award the contract for general engineering and professional services to Greenman Pedersen, Inc. for environmental monitoring services under the same terms and conditions as the Southwest Water Management District Agreement number 19CN0001956 on piggyback form 20-004. The contract provides environmental monitoring services related to the reverse osmosis water treatment plant as specified in the environmental monitoring plan, which is dated November 2005 and detailed in special condition 13 of the Swift Mud Water Use Permit, WUP 2001-1218, and in the Army Corps of Engineers, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, Environmental Resource Permits. The original contract is effective as of 4/4/2019 and is valid for 5 years. The consultant fee of $52,012.01 for the scope of work is to be paid from the GL account 401-148-533-30-3120, and staff recommends approval.
That 1 cent has me a little concerned.
Not to exceed.
Very good. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Item number 12, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 12 is request council approval to waive bid requirements and authorize the purchase of carbon dioxide from Matheson Tri-Gas Incorporated, utilizing the Sarasota County contract number 1917-84HR on piggyback form 19-002. Carbon dioxide is added during the potable water treatment process at the reverse osmosis water treatment plant for alkalinity and pH adjustment. Matheson Tri-Gas Incorporated has agreed to extend the pricing terms and conditions of the Sarasota County contract to the city. The current contract went into effect on October 26, 2019, and is valid through October 25th, year 2022, at the rate of $0.0945 per pound of carbon dioxide. The budgetary impact and the funding for this chemical has been budgeted for the amount of $60,500 in the current year financial budget ROWTP in the Water and Sewer Fund, and staff recommends approval.
All right, Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor.
So moved. Do I have a second? Had a very quiet second. Any discussion?
Aren't you glad that I don't find carbon dioxide sexy on a night like tonight?
I'm glad. Finally. Sensing there's no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Is that all you got, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank
City
you.
Clerk.
I don't have anything except welcome, Sandy.
There you go. All right, item number 13, City Council, consider City clerk's annual compensation. As you know, that there is a provision to increase her compensation on an annual basis based on satisfactory, a minimum of 3 council members answering yes regarding satisfaction of performance. The charter official shall receive the same enhancement as other city employees, with such an enhancement ratified by the council at the first meeting in November. Merit increase general employees in the fiscal year 2019-20 budget is 3%. And I would say she's worth every bit, that's for sure.
And more.
And more, but it's only 3.
Yeah.
All right. I love you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the same merit.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a
Okay.
second? And I have a second. Do I have any discussion?
Give her 3%.
Give her 3%. All in favor say yes.
Favor, yes.
All opposed, quiet. Motion passes. All right. This one's going to be tough. Consider the city manager's annual compensation.
Here's where we're
It's
gonna get the
amazing how we
money.
go from one to the other. I just amused myself. All right. It is part. Oh. Wow. I just lost that on my screen. So the same, if 3 council members answer yes regarding satisfactory performance during their annual review, which that has occurred. As a matter of fact, I think all 5 of them came in satisfactory, which is, astounding. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little
We're on
punchy
L now?
up here.
We're on L.
Way too much fun over there.
Yeah, okay, we're on item 14. And so therefore, he is also entitled to the same merit increase when this year it is 3%. The chair will entertain a motion to
I
approve.
would like to make that motion.
So moved. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Absolutely.
All opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations, you two, all joking aside. Very well deserved. Very, very well deserved. I would say a bargain. And next is the, what is it, the city attorney? Oh, that's not on here, is it?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Don't give him a raise.
Sorry. All right, item 15, a very another important item on tonight, and that is the appointment of vice mayor to serve from November 5th, 2019 through March 24th, 2020. It's my privilege to nominate Councilmember Gannon to serve as my vice mayor. In a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
A second, I will say this, I know she's still fairly new to the council. I know the other council members, we're all busy and it's a shorter term, but I think that she has certainly demonstrated the skill sets and always being prepared, and I think, it would be an honor for me to have you as my vice mayor.
The honor is absolutely mine.
Well,
Thank
very
you.
good. Then all in favor
All of you.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I voted aye.
I figured that. The motion passes. Congratulations. Item 16, approval of the tentative agenda for November 16, 2019.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Does anybody wish to pull anything from the tentative agenda?
Nope.
Does anybody wish to add anything to the tentative agenda? The chair would like to make a motion to approve the tentative agenda and add approved payment to legal counsel for October 2019 legal services. The chair will entertain a motion.
I see what you did there.
See what I did? I set him up on that, like, oh, boom.
I see that.
So I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Second, okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Item 17, council comments. I'm going to start on this side.
And I'm gonna go quick because it's 10:30. Welcome, Sandy. You were thrown in the deep end of the pool today, baby.
Yeah.
It was not an easy
Yeah,
one.
longest meeting ever.
So thank you for joining us and serving. Kudos to the Chamber for Oktoberfest. It was a lot of fun, great event. And I have to give a shout out to Jonna and Sammy at the water plant, because after I got all excited about the polyphosphates and did all of that research. I wanted to again tour the water plant and learn more about the process. And I got a science lesson and a wonderful tour. And I know that's not part of their job, but it was awesome. So that, and then I just wanted to give, I know that you guys all got this GoFundMe thing for the fire at the condos. There's a GoFundMe account for the fire. There was 8 families displaced, some families losing everything. So if y'all could go on the GoFundMe for victims of fire at Forest Lakes condos, if anybody wants to donate to these people, would be awesome. And that's it. It's been a long meeting. Thank you,
It's been a long
Mayor.
meeting. Good job.
Good job on
Councilmember
the,
Saraki.
good job on the meeting too.
Thank you. I want to, Chip, great concert Friday night. Thank you for your hard work on that. What I really enjoyed about it was the golf carts. I couldn't believe all the golf carts that were there. The families came out in their golf carts. They set up blankets and hung out. The band was incredible. The blues band was just fantastic. So I just wanted to say great job with that. And then I want to mention something about the Moose Club. I don't know if anybody knows about the Moose Club. It's across the street from our library. They just recently went non-smoking, so it's non-smoking.
wow.
On Fridays, they have food specials. On the third Friday, they've got buffalo chicken wings, which I love buffalo chicken wings. But last week, they had a Polish, there you go. Last week, they had a Polish dinner. They had pierogies. They had gumka. It was fantastic. Stuffed cabbage. It was delicious. And then the week before, they had an Italian feast. So on Fridays, sometimes they do dinner, and every third Sunday they do breakfast, but there's no smoking in there now. They do a lot for the community. They do a lot for the kids, and I just wanted to bring that up. And then last thing, I want to welcome Sandy to the team. That's it,
Very
Mayor.
good, very good. Councilmember Gannon.
I am.
Vice Mayor Gannon.
Yeah.
Whoa, boom.
You drop that on me one more time, I'm gonna cry. I am unbelievably grateful for the support from the community, from the Women's Club, from this council, from my friends and family, for everyone's help recently in the midst of a family disaster. For those of you who don't know, my husband Kenny broke his leg in 3 places, and I've been single mom and everything, and it's been exciting. But we're making it, and the reason we're making it is because of all of you, because of your understanding, because of your home-cooked meals, because of your phone calls to check on me to make sure I have not left. But he's doing much better. Sadly, we had another setback today, and we had to say goodbye to our Great Dane Daphne. So it's been a tough couple of weeks, but I am just, as I read in my poem tonight, I am exceedingly grateful for this community and for all of you and the millions that watch us online. I want to make sure that they know too. I am absolutely floored and honored and humbled by the opportunity to serve as vice mayor of this incredible city and for this incredible council. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. I'm so happy to be able to do it. Oktoberfest was fantastic. I welcome my new seatmate, Sandy Grimes. It's fantastic to see you up here. I never forget that moment when I looked over at Al. How about Sandy? How about Sandy? I'll keep you all posted, but we're going to do better and better day by day. So I thank you all for your support. It means
Very
a lot.
good, very good. Councilmember Grimes.
I'm a newbie and really don't have much to say except thank you for this opportunity. I'm very, very honored to serve my city and serve the residents of Oldsmar. Even though it's short term, it's thank you all, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're quite welcome. I always said, no crimes with Grimes. You got to run.
There you go.
Years ago, I've been saying it. All right, I do have a couple of items. Sunset Sounds, outstanding job. It was so funny. I told Chip when we got, my wife and I went there. We were there kind of early, I guess.
Yeah, I missed you.
Yeah.
Next
got
time
there right.
I came, you
Yeah.
just left.
And so I was saying to her, I was saying, you know, we really ought to start creating golf cart special parking to just encourage it, not knowing that when I walked up, they already were doing it. It was like, oh man, that's perfect. And it had just such a good vibe to it. It was, it wasn't Celebrate Oldsmar and all. It was a good vibe to it. So job well done for you and the team. All right, share that with them, please. Don't forget the annual talent show is coming up. It is this Friday. At what time? 7 o'clock. I know you announced it earlier. And so we've got a lot of talented folks here in Oldsmar, and Al is doing a big routine you don't want to miss.
Backflips.
Seriously? I am so gullible. It's late.
But anyhow, unfortunately, I will be returning back in town. I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10:30 in Las Vegas. So I will be on a very, very early flight. And so I can't get back here in time. I'm out there for a few days of meetings. Veterans Day, don't forget Veterans Day is coming up. Always our veterans out there and our advisory committee that does just an amazing job, and our staff out there that works real hard on it. So please be out there. I want to congratulate my friend Councilmember Grimes. She's going to do a great job for the city, and I have all the confidence in the world. I always describe her, she's smart, she's pretty, and she can be tough as nails. That's just like the killer combination right there. And so we've got that up here on the council, so our citizens should feel good about it. Vice Mayor, congratulations. Thank you for accepting the position.
It's 4 times you said it now.
That's it. Well, I'm just, it won't happen again, so. But I appreciate, I know you'll do a great job at it. And the last thing, I'm going to mention this again, I am so proud of this council, right? This is a tough thing to go through. Granted, I will tell you, it's not the permanent, it's not the final. We got more heavy lifting to do and further to go in this, but it's been 8 months, and here we sit with proposals, and that's been a lot of hard work by this council. I appreciate the diligence that everyone went through prior tonight. It was obvious that everybody was fully informed and prepared. It's part of the reason we got through it. I hope that all of the people who participated felt like they were treated fairly, and that's all you can ask for. There's always going to be folks who were disappointed. And look, the fact that we did the carve out, it's not done yet, but we're headed in that direction, says there's some other opportunity there if somebody has the appetite for it. So we'll see. Congratulations to those who were ranked number 1. We expect great things out of you all back there. Simone, we're talking to you. We expect you guys to get the deal done fast and furious. Don't forget, there's 90 days that we gave the city manager to get something done and come back to us, and he's going to report in 30 days. So let's just get it done. Besides that, I have nothing else.
Can I introduce him, please?
Oh, I am sorry.
I got to tell you something. This is big for me, and I'm not faking this. My favorite Lightning player of all time is right there.
Saber.
John Tucker, right there.
Of all time?
And I was thinking it had something to do with the fact that we have this great relationship with the Lightning, because on opening day, October 12th, John Tucker was the one that hosted the clinics. He's very active in the youth hockey. He's very active in the organization. And here he is, man. That's 14. Played a bunch of years in Buffalo. Played a bunch of better years for the Lightning. And we're looking at him.
Well, welcome.
Thanks, Tom.
Welcome. Thanks.
Now, you're aging yourself.
That's all right, man. That's all right.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Do I have a second? There is no discussion on that motion. We're adjourned.